comes to woke-related stuff, it's hard to find ever, like, what are the particular DEI policies. It's always some vague allusion to airlines don't want to hire white pilots, or they lower their standards for black pilots, or these things that tend to not exist when you actually dig into them. Now, I don't know, maybe it is the case that the Royal Air Force actually had a policy of not hiring straight white men.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll look into that. I'm curious about that. I have a feeling when I look into it, it's going to be completely untrue, like most of the stuff that you bring up, but I'll look into it. Maybe it was true. And, you know, if it is, I would say that's not a good thing.
This is an article from Sky News. Could you just read out what it says, please?
Okay, so it says applicants seeking to join RAF described as useless white male pilots in bid to hit impossible diversity targets.
Thank you.
One minute, guys. That time limit went by really fast, and I had my ice cream sandwich, and well, it's more or less something that happens behind the scenes you wouldn't know about, except for a couple of times when I've been finishing it up as we go into the show, mind you. But yeah, I almost always have a pre-show ice cream sandwich from Fat Boy. By the way, I'm not sponsored or anything. Just saying, if you happen to be looking for the absolute best ice cream sandwiches on the planet, Fat Boy ice cream sandwiches. Oh my goodness, these are like a slice of heaven, and they come in standard, small, and cookies and cream. And there's a few other things they offer, like brownie versions and cookie versions, all kinds of different frozen pastries. But let me eat this really fast, and we'll go on with the episode. I just, man, the time limit went really fast today. I guess I think I was kind of hypnotized by this thing I was watching on the side, and unfortunately, I don't know where the other 4 minutes and 15 seconds went, but I came in, there was 45 seconds left. I was like, oh my goodness. So, unfortunately, how are you all doing today? Hope you're all doing fantastic. It's Saturday. I know. Sadly, here, it's hot as hell already. We're barely through March, and it's hot as shit. Really sucks. Really sucks. But, what can you do? But eat ice cream sandwiches. Or, by the way, as you've seen before also, Italian ice cream in the cup. That's really good. Really good. Although when it comes, well, kind of hard to say because I've never been, well, I want to say never, but through most of my life, I've not been a big chocolate person. Like if you wanted, if I wanted to have chocolate, it was going to have to be like not very often. It was going to be very rare, and usually going to have to be like Hershey, well, like a not Hershey's, Reese's, something like that. Where it's like, well, yeah, there's chocolate, but there's also peanut butter. It's all fake, but who cares? There we go. Anyway, but now, well, the point wasn't like sweet stuff and like sweet and fruity flavored stuff. That used to be my go-to. Now, I can tolerate a lot more chocolatey, which, I mean, to be honest, yeah, it's vanilla ice cream, but the exterior shell is still kind of more chocolate tasting. It's kind of like a chocolate brownies. And I'm sorry to go on and on like this, but this is really awkward, and I can't think of any other way to fill up the time. So, I'm done now. So thank you. Now, to get on with it, how are you guys doing and all that fun stuff? I hope you guys are doing well. Better than I am in this heat because it really sucks. I'm trying not to sweat like crazy while this is going on because my room also is not the best place in the house for getting out of the heat. As a matter of fact, usually it's wonderful during the winter when it's really cold because this is the only place in the house that stays nice and toasty. But even you have to sit by the fireplace next to the fire to really feel really warm. But aside from that, if you want to get warm, you have to be in my room. Ladies, I'm talking to you. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, speaking of which, we may be discussing as I've talked before. You know, but no, I don't know. There's a mention of someone who might just be the next one who takes Megyn Kelly's spot because now that she's no longer caught my attention. We'll actually be going kind of backwards a little bit. I don't mean that in a sense of like look's sake, but backwards in time's sake too. When when someone else was usually my political / news fixation whenever she was on television, and this one's a tough one. She's political, not so much media, which actually might be better because then she can lie to me and it'd be more effective. Anyway, but all joking aside, I did have a totally different subject in mind because I am going to make mention of a couple of things today because they've been bugging the hell out of me, and I really think that I need to put them out there at least because, to be honest, I haven't heard one single person on legacy media, on podcasts, on live web streams, on any live stream whatsoever, on any podcast whatsoever. I haven't heard anybody mention this point, and I'm going to get to it because it has to do with the Iran strikes and the conflict there. Right now, I just saw this today. I thought this was a joke, mind you. I didn't know this was real. And when I saw the actual video footage of this happening, my jaw hit the floor, and I kind of stopped watching the video for quite a while. I didn't even come back to it. It took me quite a while to come back to the clip. But so when they announced the new Ayatollah, which was the former Ayatollah's son, who has been, as far as we have heard now, we have the following information. He's the new Ayatollah. He was critically wounded in a strike, but he's still alive, although in the hospital, and he can't make an address. He can, however, apparently get a message out to the people, which proves nothing, by the way, but they want us to believe that this was written by him, or at least instructed to be written by him. I don't know. But in the meantime, well, they don't have a figurehead. So what do? Well, when they're about to introduce the new supreme leader of Iran, they have to come up. They have to think on their feet. You know, they got to be thinking quick. Like, what do we do? The guy's not here. He can't make it. He's not going to make it. He can't. He's probably dead, in my opinion. But let's just assume for a few seconds that he's not. And they need a real live Ayatollah to come out there, and they can't just get the Ayatollah. They can't dress anyone up like him, or he'd have to be honor killed or something like that. There had to be some kind of killing done because, let's face it, you can't dress up like the Ayatollah, or else that's probably blasphemous in Iran. So what do we do? What do we do? I know. Let's get a cardboard cutout and put his face on it, and we'll bring that out in front of the crowd. And I swear, I saw pictures like this that were of this thing. I thought it was a joke until I saw the live footage. They literally pulled this cardboard cutout out. That's like, it's all still cardboard, but there's like a picture of his face on the top of it, and that's it. And they did go, at least, they didn't just go completely out of their way to not like no effort whatsoever. They did cut out the spot where his hands would be resting up against his side, and his hand would have a small little rounded edge on it. They went that far, but the legs are straight. He's standing pretty tall and stiff like this, but His face is cut, and then there's like this V. I don't know if that's his beard shaped. It's super perfectly shaped like a V, or if maybe he has it tucked into his robes, and the robes have the V shape on them or something, and that's how they got it. I don't know, but his face is there, and then there's the beard, and there's just like it gets cut into a V shape, and then the rest is all just brown cardboard. And the guys, I swear to God, the guys bring him out, and the guy who's supposed to be introducing him, I guess, gives him a hug and kisses him on the shoulder, and then he looks up at him smilingly, and then he just stands there, and I'm like, this is what is this? These these are the people that were threatened. Like this is what they do because they can't show their new supreme leader because he's probably dead, but you know, oh. That has to be one of the most embarrassing things ever. I don't even know if they recognize how big of a fucking embarrassment that was to their whole country. They made the biggest fucking fools out of themselves to present their new supreme leader. Here he is, the cardboard cutout in all his paper glory. Like he's not. There's no flesh and blood here. It's just cardboard and a piece of paper with his face glued on. This is the best we could do on short notice, but trust me, he's alive and he's not well, but he will be, and then he'll be out here as soon as he. What is going on? This is fucking ridiculous. So I'm sorry, but when I hear Donald Trump say that, like, we're close to wrapping up the war, I tend to agree now because if that's how desperate they are that they have to have a fake Ayatollah cardboard cutout to stand in for their lack of Ayatollah that will come out and speak before the people, and whoever in that country has faith in that government. like I think of it like this. This was the thought that crossed my mind. If for God forbid, if the guy in Butler had not killed Donald Trump, but done more damage to the point that he couldn't be seen in public, and he was hospitalized, but he was still alive, and he was in bad condition, but we knew he was going to make it. And then the Republican convention rolled around, and instead of having something like the vice president make a speech or mention that having somebody reputable within the party give notification on how the president was and how he was doing and blah blah. Instead of all that, they decided let's cut out a big cardboard cutout. Well, Donald Trump at least has like legitimate cardboard cutouts, so they could have just bought one probably. But uh, let's get a cardboard cutout of Donald Trump, and we'll bring it up on stage, and he can give the speech, but he can't because he can't speak. But we'll play a former Donald Trump speech. Like, what are you doing? Like, that's. I mean, and of course, we would never do that because it would be pathetic. But that's what our adversarial country is doing. It just. Oh man. Oh, I still am having a hard time processing it because it just is like who. This is like a fucking. This is like a performance in a movie. I mean, like this is like some kind of comedy show. Like there's no way in hell that anybody with a fucking brain would be thinking this is a good idea. Like who approved this and what levels of government was it approved? Now, bear in mind, I don't want to see anybody get killed or anything. So I don't want to see anybody get hurt because of their stupid stunt. But oh, I forgot. Hold on a second. I didn't put this in. So Rumble chat. Sorry, if you said anything. I doubt it. But if you have, sorry. Let me get this doc. Um, but I swear, man, this is absolutely. I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen anything this bad. Like whoa, 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 whoa. Ooh, my arm slipped off of the arm on the chair. Luckily, I'm an expert with my reflexes, and there's no spillage. I'm not an expert at all. I'm clumsy as hell, but anyway, that just I could not believe that that was what I was seeing, and that was real. Like I said, I saw I saw the cardboard cutout, but I just saw the cardboard cutout, and there was not really any. The guy wasn't standing nearly as close. Somebody was standing holding it up, but like obviously, um, but there wasn't all the theatrics that went along with it, and there wasn't all the, you know, because bear in mind there is a crowd. I don't know how big the crowd is, but there is a crowd there because you see hands with Iranian flags waving them in like, I don't know how you'd be so proud of that country if you live there and like you watch this shit and you're like, wow, man, we're going places now. Oh my god. Anyway, does anybody? Come on, this is pathetic. Come on, guys, this is ridiculous. Oh, jeez. Anyway, there's one other thing that I've realized, and after I saw that, I was like, okay, all bets are off. I have no idea what's up with this country anymore. They have no fucking, they have no control over anything. They're just stitching things together last minute, all times of the day. But so that's why I have to come out and ask this question now because frankly, I'm getting tired of the back and forth about it. But so and the other reason is because now I'm sorry, but I have a bone to pick. I love Patrick Bet David's show. I love the podcast. I like the guys on the show. Usually, there's not really much problem I have with them, but in particular, I'm sorry, Vinny. Man, I know, dude. I know you've that, and believe me, I have stuff like this too. Like when it comes to children and when it comes to animals in particular as well. Like I have a real serious problem with anybody that hurts something seriously weaker than them. That's why animals in particular get right behind children um because people that when a pet that really trusts you and really follows you around and you mistreat the hell out of that pet. And I'm not talking even like levels of like you know some YouTubers and stuff that have gone and smacked their dog or even as far as Hassan who shocked his dog. No, I'm talking about uh, one day soon it's coming because um what was there was a the okay, so the furries have been attempting to try and re reinsert themselves into the culture in terms of well, what's wrong with furries? I will tell everybody very soon what's wrong with furries. I will tell you exactly what's wrong with furries, and trust me, this is not. I will give a I've talked about this a little bit before, but I will have to give a very serious disclaimer, and I'm not joking. I will have to give a very serious disclaimer before I do the show, because even though I will be very highly censoring anything I even say, and I won't be showing anything, um, I've gotten nauseous sometimes just hearing it or just talking about it. I'm talking like think of the most think of like Jigsaw. Like think of someone like that, but for your pets. And not because they like to kill and murder and torture, but because the sick motherfuckers get off on it. And I'm going to name names and I'm going to point out things that have happened. And I am going to lay the case out there why people who have ever supported this horse shit, there are good people involved, but I'm sorry, that ship has sailed. It's time for that to be done because, once again, and this goes back to Vinny, these people have also done stuff to kids, and a lot of them were under a serious amount of scrutiny, and only one the whole group got any kind of significant charge. Now, it was a significant charge, believe me. It was a very significant charge. It was over 25 years. But there should have been at least 10 people in that group that got sentences similar to that. And aside from that, there should have been others that got some other really serious fucking jail time. Unfortunately, there was one that lived in Cuba. No. Was it Cuba? Or was it? I believe it was Cuba, actually. But yeah, there was one of them that lived in Cuba, and obviously our justice system couldn't do anything about him. Now there was some hope for a while, and this is all uh, this is all information that was really highly pursued by some very dedicated people, online sleuths that had connections to some people that were private detectives and some law enforcement agents that were contacted directly and communicated with some of the members of the group. This wasn't just a group of dorks who were online all the time. This was a serious effort to actually find these people. But there's another sad part to this, which was that in a lot of states in the United States, there aren't nearly as serious punishments for animal abuse as there is for other types of abuses of people. Which I get that the penalties should be different, but I'm telling you, when you hear the kind of stuff that you hear about, and the worst part about the whole thing is that they don't talk about this in a way like I'm talking to you about it right now. They talk about it in with little smiley emojis and kissy face emojis, like, ooh, oh, I would love to see that. Ooh, that sounds so good. Ooh, wow, I can't believe it. That's amazing. These are monsters. These are monsters that were around us, and trust me, these are some fucking loser ass motherfuckers. They are complete, absolute fucking rejects. They have no fucking, like, nothing of value or nothing, no redeeming qualities whatsoever. And on top of that, they're sick pieces of shit. So, I mean, if you've heard this before, you now maybe know why a little bit more if you never heard the story. But gas the furries or yiff in hell, these were two phrases that were going around a lot during that time. I still say yiff in hell because, to be honest, um, that's where they belong. That's where they're going, and that's where they belong. But I and you guys know me. It's hard for me to go that far and say that, but this really is like some people that I knew that were involved in researching this. If they didn't drop out because they couldn't handle it anymore, and it was just too dark and they couldn't deal with it, they were just they're all stunned. They were all stunned by the level of depravity in this. And so the reason it's because I mean, there's been animal abuse. There will be animal abuse going in the future. The reason this was so profound is because there's a group of people who dress up like anthropomorphic animals, meaning animals that take on human characteristics, stuff from people's childhood and Disney films and things like that. And the sort of the whole fandom itself was started by a couple of guys who were, more or less just former artists, and they had a strong interest in that art genre, and they did a bunch of stuff. But once this sort of evolved into a full-fledged national and international like sort of thing that you would have, like, things that you have conventions for, where there's fans of a type of subculture or whatever. um this evolved into something that got really, really, really big for the people that had some kind of affinity towards this idea. I like Mr. Mediker's uh, way of describing this as a retarded mascot uh, fucking get together, but like basically a place for a bunch of mentally deficient sport team handicapped mascots to come dress up, put their little suit on that, that probably hasn't been washed in God knows how long, and go and run around and look at the artwork and look at all this. And meanwhile, in the hotel rooms and in the parking lots and in the back alleys of this place, there's shit going on both between people and animals and people and underage young, what they disgustingly call cubs. Believe me, I've looked into a lot of this stuff, and it's absolutely just like depravity on a whole new level. And like I said, judging from the fact that under the new tolerance banner, everybody's supposed to treat everybody with respect. So no, absolutely not. Um, I do want to point out that while this stuff was exploding, um, there was sort of a division where these degenerate pieces of garbage were getting exposed, and a lot of the good people that were left in the community were all starting to just abandon ship because they're like, I've been trying to, um I've been trying to hang it, keep it together and put myself out there and highlight anything that is anyone and anything that's really making the community still function and still has the best of intentions. But I just get attacked by people so often who are like, "How dare you for coming after us?" I just can't do it anymore. Like so many people with that perspective started coming out and saying, "I just can't defend it anymore. I can't see any purpose for it anymore. It does so much damage that there's no amount of good that can come out of it that's worth it." And I have nothing but respect, in particular, a guy whose whose sort of handle was Cothrix, and he even tried to help one of the guys out at first, who he believed was being um, sort of misrepresented or wasn't as responsible as people were making him out to be um, when he was trying to work with him. And later on, he just got so pissed, he's just like, just release the chats between us. And they did, and this guy Kostrix was a saint, man. He tried so hard to get this guy to just own up to it, and tell people the truth, because if you don't, then people will find out anyway, and they'll just know that you're a liar and you're a sick piece of shit. So, but the guy just kept, like, he had these weird lines like, well, I don't care if you admit this and this and this, just don't refer to me as this term. And he's like, okay, but that's the term for people that do this. So why would you not, like, what's exactly the big problem with it? And he insists on being described this way and that way. The guy was just had the patience of a saint for trying to put up with it. But and then when he finally puts out this piece, it's not meant to bury the guy entirely, but just to explain the reality of the situation. Then he gets lambasted by the guy he's been working to put out a piece to explain what is the real situation with him. He gets lambasted by the guy for how I didn't approve of this. How dare you? It's like I think that was really the last straw. It's like, you motherfucker. You're okay. Fine, handle it on your own, and best of luck. And so it just was the whole thing exposed a lot of very bad people, and since then they kind of have rightly gone down back into the fucking hole they crawled out of. But I do see now, this sort of attempt to kind of I mean, you think when you see the culture devolving into the point where the LGBT and in particular the T community coming out and demanding everything from, you know, access to girls' bathrooms, access to girls' sports, access to girls' women's prisons, access to all female facilities of every kind. You think you're looking at a uniquely degenerate group of people that has no place in society whatsoever. But really, the reality is that, I mean, for everyone you know about, there's a ton more that are at least as bad, if not worse. And as a matter of fact, while that guy from Cuba I was talking about, um, while he was considered potentially the worst, I actually do think there was one other guy who, oh man, I will be discussing him. I don't. I'm sorry. I'm talking about it a lot right now, and I'm just giving like I'm dropping hints about this stuff, and I'm talking about some of it, but like I'm just barely scraping the iceberg because, and I mean literally, I'm just scraping the top of the iceberg. This is an absolute nightmare on earth. Like this is the fact that this was going on for as long as it was, nobody knew, and uh, they were able. And by the way they were exposed was actually kind of unusual. But the only reason it happened was because one of the main guys, the guy that got actual long amount of jail time, um, his computer, or wherever he did the majority of his online chatting, I'll say, which all the by the way was all done on Telegram. For the most part, it seems like from most of these people, but um, the this guy was, wait, where was that going? Hold on, guy that trying to remember where. Hmm. It was something about him, but it was like kind of a tangent of what involved him directly, but I can't remember exactly. But oh, that's right. By the way, like because him and that's right. So the way all this came out, um, this guy had been connecting people that were similar minded in their disgusting, degenerate fucking fetishes that they were for some reason turned on by somehow. I don't know, but um, the only reason that people found out this information was because his computer, which someone managed to get onto without his direct knowledge, and all of his chats were essentially copied and saved to another storage device, and then were all leaked on X at one point, or is YouTube still then, or not YouTube? It was Twitter still then, but uh, all these logs were dumped, and it was just this massive, massive, giant file of some of the most nightmare fueling content you could ever freaking imagine. Because that was the other thing. This group made a lot of videos and pictures that they would love to send with each other of all the sick shit they're up to. So, but I swear, now that I'm talking about it now, I think I will have to do it soon because I think, it's better to nip. First of all, it's better to just nip this in the bud and cut this off at the pass before they have any chance of being able to produce, even to be able to make some sort of, you know, picture of themselves that they put up with themselves cleaned up and looking like they're just a misunderstood group of people, and they're just like all of us, and before we get to a point where they even have a chance to make a case for themselves, I don't even want the fucking pieces of shit to. I don't want anybody to have to be suffering through the list of why they deserve to be given another shot or whatever it is, however they word it. How they've been so many of them tried to play the card. This has brought so much stress to my life. I've been thinking of killing myself, and I sat there going, "Well, why don't you?" And I wouldn't say that lightly, but man, once you have gotten to the point that some of these people did, it's just like, I hate to say it, but and I'm sorry, but maybe the world would be a better place without you in it. Actually, I don't even say maybe. I think it would be. I think it would be for the children and the animals that you have, like, you know, destroyed for life. If you haven't literally destroyed them, then absolutely yes. So, anyway, this was a whole offshoot from my original point. So let's go back to that. But that is coming soon. I've hinted at it for far too long. I'll have to do something about it soon because it needs to be discussed. Especially, like I said, now that there's some talks of them attempting to actually clean up their image and come back. If I have anything to say about it, no, you fucking not. But anyway, but about my original subject, Vinny at PBD's podcast, I get it totally when it comes to kids in your issue with anyone who would harm a child. But let's get some things straight here because I don't like the way that I mean, first of all, they have a podcast that's sort of a pop culture, modern political and social topics that is kind of like mine. Whereas though mine focuses more on political, theirs focus is more on the social and cultural aspects of current events, and they do stray into politics, and they have started kind of swaying more and more that direction, but um, Vinny in particular has a very short temper for anything that happens with children. So when it comes to Epstein or when it comes to allegations at all about anybody, he has a very strong reaction. But here's the problem, Vinny. You have to set that aside until you know who to be angry at. And one thing I can't help but ask because nobody's asked, and let me just get to this because this is really bugging me. We have this report now, right? Or these allegations, whatever they may be, of this school that was hit in Iran, and the initial reports were, well, it was Israel, of course, because that would of course be who they would blame first. And Israel goes, no, wait, no, we had nothing to do with this. No, of course. Um, and then it's like, well, no, they didn't. Who was? Oh, well, it must have been Iran. Yeah. Um, that seemed to be something that people were kind of accepting up until the point where now there's this report that are coming from, and it is coming from people uh, within our own like military, and I don't mean military like what you think of. I mean like commanders, generals in DC that are not out in the field, I don't think, or whatever. I highly doubt that this is from actual on the ground and in the field men in the service uh, and the Washington bureaucratic fucking types that are just advancing their career. Now there's talks that it's because of the USA and their bad intelligence. And the reason that that has been given any kind of credibility is because supposedly there's a report that came out that states that, well, this building that they attacked had bad information from their intelligence services. It looks like it used to be a military installment, and now it's part military installment, and the other part is school, and that was hit because the intelligence was bad. It didn't mention that aspect. It didn't show that where that was connected or anything. Now, here's the problem, and everybody like the thing that kept happening on the PBD podcast. I kept hearing everybody on that fucking panel going, just own up to it. Just own up to it and tell people the truth, and that's the way out of it. First of all, sorry, no, that's not the way out of it. Have you seen what happens when you tell the truth and Democrats are around? That's the beginning of it. That's when you start getting, I mean, you're thinking of what would happen if decent people were involved in the process and were willing to discuss it and willing to hear out someone to assess whether or not they truly understood the gravity of the mistake
and their the gravity of their oath to this country and representing it honorably, and the left, who are going to hear that and they won't give a shit what they have to say. If they get any confirmation that yes, this is true, nothing will be sufficient. Uh, nothing will be acceptable. It will be yet another bullet point against this administration and against Pete Hegseth and against the military, who, by the way, once again, if there was such a terrible job, the recruitment numbers are up and through the roof. They're way above expectations. And I don't want to particularly see that get cut off because of something completely misrepresented where we don't know the facts at all. It's flip-flopped twice now. And now we just landed on this, and because it's the most convenient, we got to go with it? No, because there's been questions I've had from the beginning. And first off, before we get to that one, we'll just say, why was the intelligence bad if this is such a major shift? Because this is a major shift. You have a military base in Iran that gets split, and I don't know what the territory looks like, and I don't know where the buildings are, and I don't know how they went about separating this. But once again, if you remember back to Gaza and what Hamas does with kids, don't forget, as I've talked about before, they're taught in school. From the moment they enter grade school, they are slowly indoctrinated and led to believe that Israel is their enemy, the United States is their enemy, the Western countries are all their enemies. Christianity and Judaism are their enemies, and it's your duty as a Muslim to destroy the infidel, to kill the infidel, this is what they're taught in schools in Islamic countries. That's what they're taught. And so you get that aspect of it. You get the aspect of it that, like I said, has this building happen to be, and that's quite an extreme switch, especially for a country like Iran. And there's another problem with that, but it's the biggest one. But before we get there, just the idea that we have a military installation that becomes part military base, part school, that seems ridiculous to me, unless you're training jihadists. But thirdly and finally, we were told for the first large chunk of time, up until recently, all of a sudden it hasn't been a focal point, but the initial reports for a long time, and still to this day I still hear some, that this was a girls' school for children in Iran. Why am I crazy, or do I seem to remember that in every Islamic country I've ever heard of that practices Sharia law, women are allowed to go to school? Like, where did we all forget this? Or is there some reason why this is being ignored? Or is it just that it's not a girls' school? What is the deal? Like, is this? You can't tell me that in Iran, of all places, that rule is a place where they make an exception. And yeah, we educate our women in Iran. Since when? Like, what are we talking about here? When was this part of the Islamic ideology that it's fine to educate young girls, and yeah, absolutely. No, it's not. Did you see what happened in Afghanistan when they were still going to school after we left? There was women and girls getting the shit beat out of them for going. It was disgusting. So please tell me, enlighten me, how this girls' school exists next to, of all things, a fucking military base. And like I said, I don't know, not one reporter, not one journalist, not one individual affiliated with anything that has to do with this situation has brought up the little inconvenient point that, oh yeah, that's right. That's right. I seem to remember that women are second-class citizens in Iran as opposed to, United States and other free Western countries. And women don't go to school. Like, so what are we talking about here? And it's just like, yeah, no matter what we're talking about, don't forget, as I said, they are taught by 13, 14 how to strap on a dynamite vest and go and and or an explosive vest of any kind and go and um, suicide bomb for Allah in the middle of a crowd. And they're also taught by 14, 15, 16 for the boys how to wield a weapon, how to hold an AK-47, how to fire it, how to trick the Israeli military into letting their guard down around young kids so that they can mow them down with AK-47. I don't like doing it, but it's a reality that the West has to face. That while we are a country that treats children like the um, precious life that they are, this is a country that is so despicable that they treat children the same way they treat the rest of the population, like war tools to be used. And so I'm sorry if I'm wrong somehow about this, let me know, because I am genuinely curious. Why is it that is there something I've missed that suggests that Iran would be for educating their girls and young women and that would be something fine with the Iranians and the Iranian mullahs and the supreme leader and the theocratic government there. Why is that okay there, but not in Gaza and not in Lebanon and not in, like, I don't know of any extreme Islamic country that, especially one that harbors a sort of terrorist ideology among, let alone the sponsor of all of them. That I don't know one of them that believes that women should be taught in the same way that men should be taught, and they should go to school, and that should learn anything other than what they need to. I mean, and don't forget also, by the time they're between 9 and 12, a lot of them have already been put into a prearranged marriage, and it's like, so once again, Vinny, with all due respect, man, I believe me, I get it, but this isn't gonna. I only want them to say it's true if it is true. I don't want them to say it's true because there's pressure on them to say it's true. And if it's not true, which I don't think that I would say, in my opinion, hell no. And even if there was an instance where there was American weapons that happened to knock out an area where there were children, I would almost guarantee that the reason they were hit is because Iran allowed them to believe that this was an area where military or some of their weapon installations were, as opposed to innocent civilians, children, or non-combatants. Like, the strongest thing that the entire Islamic regime has had during this entire conflict is propaganda. They have propagandized news stations. They have propagandized United Nations. They have propagandized a ton of the American citizens, for fuck's sake. So, yeah, are we really believing that it's all that far off that they would be able to pull the wool over the eyes of the country that is the polar opposite of them when it comes to human rights, when it comes to women's rights, when it comes to the rights of children and people of all different faiths and beliefs to be able to go to school and go to whatever they need to get their worship services, and it's like, and that seems like it's at the heart of everything. This is such a polar opposite nation in terms of everything that we believe in, that they really use our morality against us in many ways. But I got too much of a memory to remember, and my memory is usually shit. But when it comes to things like this, it's like, no, I remember, because I remember the screams of the woman being beat who was trying to walk to a schoolhouse in Afghanistan about a week after we left. I remember hearing the lashes and the screaming. I didn't see the woman was not on screen. Someone was filming because they could hear it in the microphone, and they pointed the camera in the general direction, but there was fences and houses in the way, so all you could hear was just hear what was happening. But there was no doubt that there was a there's a woman that was getting beat to shit because she dared to go to school. Now, obviously, a woman, that would be more egregious in their eyes, but she may have been a teacher. She may have been someone who is a advocate for women and children, women and girls to go to school. Um, but sorry, there's that's burned into my head now, and that was the point where I was like, my God, look at everybody looks at what Trump's doing right now, and they have all this criticism, and I go and I say, look at what fucking Biden did. Nobody, you think that we could maybe refocus and think about what happens when you don't take decisive action, when you do things that a coward would do or a pussy would do that would be completely um, the absolute opposite of what any American leader with some fucking backbone would do? Because I honestly think that no, somebody that intends to lead this country in an honorable way in battle or in anything is going to do it by remembering what's happened when we've failed to act in the right way, and when we've failed to follow through with what we promised to do. Which is why Trump has said also that we're there to get rid of this oppressive and terrible regime, but as far as the future of the Iranian people, that's in their hands. We're going to give them the ability to do it, but we're not going to be the ones to decide their fate for them. That's up to them. And I commend the hell out of him for it, because that is further proof, once again, that this is not about nation building or any of the other terms that have been thrown around as weapons by the Democrat Party, who suddenly, once again, is having this epiphany despite despite the fact that, you know, they seem to have no problem with um, Barack Obama's policies, which, by the way, were involved bombing American civilians with drones when they were on the bed. Anyway, just the point is that I couldn't believe that with all the information that was swirling around out there and how much they had been proven wrong already, that there'd be people, especially independent creators, like on PBD's show, that would be what's the word? That would be accepting of the idea that, yeah, well, it must be America's fault. Well, just come out and say it. Just be honest, guys. Well, okay, what if that's not the truth, though? What if it's not true? What if they said the intelligence was bad? Well, what if this intelligence is bad? What if the intelligence that was bad was actually good, and some jackass progressive has reinterpreted it to me? I have no idea. I haven't been involved in the briefings, so I can't say. But all I can say is we've got a track record leading up to this, and that doesn't mean nothing. That means pretty much the only thing that we can use as a reference point. That's what it means. And if this was somehow a mistake as egregious as this, then I would be all for it. But I hear what's being said, and I'm like, this just does not. Something about this just does not pass the smell test. There's something wrong here. There's seriously something wrong here, and I don't like this idea of just accepting that and moving on, because that's, you want a campaign slogan for the Democrats in the midterms. Well, it's that right there. It's the supposed responsibility that would be sought after by the administration for failing to recognize the correct target. And I'm sitting here thinking they're going to weaponize this. They're going to weaponize this. This is exactly what they want, just like it was exactly what they wanted to have people killed in ICE operations. That, don't think for a second that any of the people that were killed in ICE operations are something that Democrats were so upset about. No, that's exactly what they were hoping for. As disgusting as it sounds, that's what they wanted, because that was going to give them the upper hand in any debate or any kind of argument that they would get into. Is that well, ICE is targeting people that are in the country legally or haven't had due process. And as you know, you get lawbreakers like Alex Preddy and Renee Good, they're two martyrs, going out there and literally breaking the law every time, and then getting glorified by the left as these heroes. This was all done by a group of people who have no interest in anyone but themselves, have no interest in anything but furthering their own careers and making their bank account that much bigger. They're not in any way above doing this, so don't even think for a second that they spend any time during their day sincerely. Like, who's the one who's invited the parents of people murdered by people who crossed the border? Who invited them to the White House to talk about their lost loved ones? Who's the one who's brought them to the State of the Union? Who's the one who, like, it's just unbelievable. And then they have the gall to call freaking places like El Salvador's prison a concentration camp, or I'm just so sick of it. I am sick of the misrepresentation. I'm sick of the keywords. I'm sick of hearing regime change and forever war and freaking all these other buzzwords they've come up with to try to stop the idea that this is we're not in Iraq, we're not in Afghanistan. This is not a war that was based on America getting attacked. This is not a war based on some sort of idea of nation building. This wasn't an effort to turn the Middle East into a big Democrat haven for all the citizens in every Islamic country. No, there's a very straightforward and simple goal: making sure Iran never has the opportunity nor the capability to build nuclear weapons. That's really mainly it. And there's a lot of reasons why that was considered to be a goal that could be reached at this time as opposed to before. But the point is, that was the goal. There's no other goal other than that. In that regard, it's like, because I remember, I think I mentioned this last episode, how people had talked about how, regardless of whether or not anyone has been, what was the word? Regardless of whether or not there's actually any weapons of mass destruction in the region, this is a just war because we are liberating these people from this oppressive, violent government that's been in place in Iraq for all these years. Okay, yeah, and then they were liberated, and then they were immediately freaking decimated by their rival, ironically, Islamic rivals that were just waiting for the right opportunity to strike. And that's the thing with these countries, is that they always hold they can never stop holding a grudge. They hold a grudge against people their entire freaking life. Is just, oh man, wow. Anyway, so that's why I was just like, when it comes to what's going on there, I just like, come on, you guys, let this play out, and don't go calling for things like this unless we know for a fact what's going on. Okay, seriously. Which kind of brings me to and like I said, the other thing, if somebody can please explain to me where this girls' school is, or where these ideas about girls being educated are in Iran, I would love to hear about it, because where'd my phone go? I have not heard about that yet, and that seems a little unusual to me. But anyway, because like I said, oh, that's probably where it is. No, it's not. Oh yeah, it is. Hold on just a second. Where did that go? Here we go. Because like I said, nobody's brought that up, but I mentioned that to a couple people, and they stopped for a second. They're like, "You're right. Hmm. Wait, what? Man, that's weird." And so I at least had some people that I talked to that were like, well, "This doesn't seem. You're right. This doesn't seem right. What's going on with that? That doesn't make any sense." And you're damn right, it doesn't make any sense. What's going on here? So anyway, my point is just that I'm not saying it's not true. I'm not saying there's no way. I'm just saying how. How is that the case in a place where we know one thing that we've seen demonstrated many, many times, that yeah, women are second class citizens, and no, you don't educate women. Women don't go to school. Women don't pursue education. Women are the property of their husbands and fathers, and that's the whole point of the way they, unfortunately, they dish out capital punishment in many ways in that country. But anyway, I digress. That's enough of that for now. I really want to get that out because it's been bugging me for over like 4 or 5 days now, and I just been thinking to myself, why, oh why is it that nobody is mentioning this? I don't think I really don't understand it. But anyway, so yeah, so on to the information for today. Yeah, what a great segue. So there's been a lot of interesting events lately. Particularly, I've been hearing this sort of phrase get repeated, albeit with one number difference. In the last 10 days, there were 4 to 5 domestic terror attacks in the United States in 4 to 5 days, or in 10 days, 4 to 5. Now, that's one hell of a ramp up. But I'll say, I've heard people on the right talk about this ever since the border was open in the last administration, that you think that everybody that's crossing the border is some nice, happy immigrant here to assimilate and become part of the culture, and they'll be proud American citizens. No, I don't think that's the point. I don't think that's what's happening. And by the way, if you're so freaking naive and stupid as to believe that in some reality out there, there's this belief that when you open the borders, it's going to be done in a responsible way, and we're going. Javier Becerra and his stupid, quote that I mentioned last week about Henry Ford and the assembly line, and how he never would have been famous if he hadn't worked that efficiently, and that's why we need to process more and more illegals faster, because, and once again, bullshit statistics followed by ridiculous pleas for compassion, an insistence to ignore the parents of people directly killed or indirectly killed by way of fentanyl or other drugs, or by the gangs themselves, to be honest, because ever since the sort of attacks in Mexico have turned out, oh man, this is just it's a hard subject, but anyway, so the four attacks that we know, there was the first one that came to my attention, at least, was the guy, property of a law guy, who went in and attempted to I can't remember how many people he attempted to murder, but the next one was it another shooter, or was it because the two most recent ones were gosh, I can't believe I'm forgetting the fourth one. It'll probably come to me, but there's the bomber in New York who they focused entirely on the anti-Zoran Mamdani protests that were rightly pretty angry about the shitty job he's done so far as mayor, and the counter protest, and the entire focus of every story on the left being on the supposed xenophobic, anti anti-immigrant, anti-Muslim protest happening outside Zoran Mamdani's home. Okay, first off, it's the governor's or it's the mayor's. What is it? The mayor's residence? Yeah, the mayor's residence. It's not his home. Okay, like I know that that's kind of a point of question, but still, like most people would say Gracie Mansion, they wouldn't say freaking the mayor's home. They would make mention of it being or Zoran Mamdani's home. They would say the mayor's residence in New York City, um, or name it by the name of the actual home itself. What is it, Gracie Manor or Gracie? I can't remember exactly. Anyway, I don't live in New York. New York. I've never lived in New York. I've never lived on the East Coast. Geez, I'm all over the place. I'm sorry. Let me slow down a little bit. Um, and then the fourth one is, of course, the synagogue guy who drove into the synagogue, and I remember the fourth one. Oh no, was that the? Yeah, that was the guy that property of Allah. He went into the school and went into the ROTC class and specifically was looking for them and started firing. I heard an interesting story about that, which we'll get to in just a second. But the last one was this one in the synagogue in I can't remember the state now, but it'll be mentioned. Um, a guy drove in there and attempted to murder a bunch of people inside, and luckily he didn't get too far into his plans. But I mean, I don't know if I can go so far as to say that these people are quote unquote sleeper cells, so to speak, but they're without a doubt people who were not devoted in the slightest to the United States and people who were far more. I mean, it's undeniable. Their allegiance was with the uh, the the government of Iran and likely the Muslim Brotherhood. But in any case, he was far more sympathetic and far more aligned with the Islamic immigrants or the Islamic population in Iran and probably in Gaza as well. And it's just man, just the fact that we're watching this happen as like I said, this should be a anyway. I'm sorry. I'm trying to remember. Um, well, you know, what, we'll get to the story and then we'll get to that. But first, so you may remember um, the guy who was giving that speech with the megaphone out in that protest in front of the mayor's home in New York. Well, it turns out that that wasn't even the protest at all. That was the counter protest on behalf of the pro-immigrant, pro-open borders crowd. And well, I can't speak for the whole crowd, but I can speak for the guy who's speaking. The guy is a batshit leftist lunatic who, well, we'll just listen to what he has to say about all this. But let's just say that this guy's most certainly not the sharpest knife in the drawer, and that's kind of demonstrated by the first scene in his the first scene in my video, but also in his video. So he did a response that he wrote on X, I believe, and then he also did a response video that he posted, which is obviously we can get to a lot easier on the show, so we'll do that. But just think about this: that this guy was, and even in the video, he's far more angry at what's the guy that they were all focused on, that supposedly this white supremacist who was the real danger, that was holding the anti-Islam protest, like that's really the concern. And the guy that threw the bomb, they'll go so far as to say, now violence is never the answer, but they never will condemn the guy himself or his accomplished, his brother or whatever the fuck the guy is. But yeah, this is what can you? I don't know. How do you feel about when you see something like that? Like, what comes to mind when you see this? It's unbelievable. It's it's crazy. The guy is watching a bomb get thrown over his shoulder, landing, maybe 5 to 10 feet away from him, not that far, and you watch his reaction, and it's like, well, maybe the left aren't so bright after all, or maybe they do have a death wish, or maybe it is a death cult. I don't know, but there's a lot of shit wrong with this. So anyway, let's go ahead and oh, actually, you know what? Hold on just a second. Let's catch up on some of the other terror attacks that were going on in the country. Two of the other ones, the shooting from Mr. Property of Allah. This is actually something I'm very proud to hear of the ROTC students that were in that classroom. Some of which did get hit, but were not fatally injured. They are recovering. But the director of the what do you call the teacher of an ROTC class? I don't know. The instructor, whatever you might call him, he was killed, which is incredibly sad. Apparently, the guy walked in, asked, "Is this the ROTC class?" And yeah, and then he pulled out his firearm. He started shooting, and like I said, he killed the instructor. He attempted to kill other students, and he actually hit at least 2 other students. Like I said, but they're still alive. But the more important and the part that I feel proud to say is my favorite part is what happened after that. So let's go ahead and put this on, and then I'm pretty sure that you guys will agree with me that that's the highlight of all of this. So let's get to that real quick. Hold on, let's do this. Unfortunately, the response though after this came about is not so doesn't evoke the same levels of hope and of clarity that the ROTC students actually displayed. So or were able to invoke in people that saw the event. So anyway, here we go. Let's go ahead and get this going. I believe this was on Jesse Waters' prime time, I think. So yeah, let's get this rolling.
Giving a news conference about this terror-related shooting in Old Dominion in Virginia. Paul, what do we know about this suspect?
Well, we don't, excuse me, we don't know a whole lot other than the fact that we know he was already convicted for material support to terrorism, which is, by the way, the top terrorism charge we have in this nation.
By the way, that's another fun fact. Of course, he was already arrested, and of course, he was charged, and he was put in some slap on the wrist sentence that isn't nearly what was recommended by the prosecution, and it wasn't even close to the maximum or the minimum, even, of course. But that's what happens when. Just real quick, I'm sorry. I'll make this very quick. This is what happens when you allow a Democratic-controlled Senate to run judges through like it's freaking, a turnstile. And your qualifications are they Democrat and do they hate Trump? Okay, all right, yep, approved. Next. Like they were filling judge positions. They were constantly filling judge positions. And I've mentioned this last time. When have we seen any hearings to what's it called? Place judges in specific districts and specific courts around the country? Oh yeah, I've heard of maybe a couple. Not many. That's one reason why judges all over the place are really, not really to be trusted, and it's becoming harder and harder to even trust our own legal system. But anyway, here we go. Go ahead.
federally. It normally comes with a very big hit, but I think the most salient aspect of it is he's a naturalized citizen. Conviction on a terrorism charge means you're deportable. Why is he still here? And I can't believe that that's not the main question everybody's asking. Naturalized citizen, terrorism conviction. He ends up doing a whole lot less than what he should have done in jail. They get him out, and think about how I can tell you material support cases are not easy to make, all right? Made them, and it takes a lot of time and resources. And then to watch a guy that you got locked away where you said, all right, at least we got that guy off the street. He's not going to hurt anybody. And then they let him out, and then he does this, and he could have been thrown out of the country to begin with, is really astounding. And you know what? They have to do a forensic on what went sideways here, because that's not supposed to happen.
How was he deceased?
Now, this is interesting.
There were students.
They're asking how the shooter was deceased. How was he deceased? So I'll just go back to the beginning of the video.
There were students who were in that room that subdued him and rendered him no longer alive. I don't know how else to say it, but they basically were able to terminate the threat.
So he was not shot?
He was not shot.
He shot 3 people?
Correct. We have information that he shot 3 people.
So, got that, shot 3 people. He was subdued and killed. Now, I've heard some more information, not in the same video, but there was a knife involved. And all I have to say is bless those ROTC students, man. They could have not only had a guy that damaged a whole lot more people on their campus, but I mean, considering what happened the last time he ended up in front of a judge and did something terrible, which, by the way, you didn't get to hear the charge. He was providing material support to ISIS. That was his original charge. And somehow he was out in, like, I think 7 to 10 years or something. When I think the minimum I heard was 20 years. Pretty, not pretty Daniel Preddy. Regardless, it's just, once again, another example of exactly the kind of thing that this quote-unquote justice system has been able to produce when it comes to cases where someone who takes extreme action, but, well, it was against some some military operation. It didn't, who knows what the justification is, but obviously somebody who has no interest in really setting an example of people who have done crimes that are actually of, such significance that they're assisting an organization that openly is attempting to kill and do harm to the citizens and the country of the United States, like assisting that group, and that was his charge. And then he's walking around free in the United States. Wow, what? Just fuck right off. Seriously, fuck, go to hell. That is despicable. That is disgusting. And now there's an instructor who's fucking dead, 2 students that are injured, and yeah, they got rid of the son of a bitch. But none of this should have happened. None of it. That's what really irks me, is the way that these, which I guarantee you, whoever the judge was in this case was an appointee that really didn't take their fucking job seriously. If it was an offender in front of them that wasn't a white male, then, well, they probably weren't getting too stiff of a sentence, because white supremacy and racism and all the other shit. And actually, no. We're talking about homicidal Islamic terrorist sympathizer and supporter who literally is helping to provide them what they need to more efficiently kill our servicemen. Anyway, so next one. There's a this is the response from the left in particular, but is that both or is it just the left mostly? Yeah, it's actually this is in response to both this guy and the guy who attempted to drive through the Jewish temple and murder a bunch of Jewish people that were in this temple. So strap in. Here's another one.
We live in a country where people care more about guns than they care about 6-year-old children.
Now, of course, where do we go first? We go to the gun argument yet again. It's the guns. It's always the guns, and that's always the first thing that we go to, the guns. I guarantee you, you know what? This ROTC instructor, I almost guarantee you this guy knew how to very expertly handle a firearm far better than most people do. And that if this was not a gun-free zone, there probably would never have been an incident that day. And yet, because there's this insistence by the left that schools are gun-free zones, which is so stupid because of, like, the places that are gun-free zones are places where so many people specifically decide they are going to target for a mass shooting event. Why? Because they know there's no guns there to stop them. Yet the problem is the gun. It's not the lunatic that used it. It's the gun itself. This is just, once again, we're going through the Democrat playbook here yet again with more of their stupid freaking positions that this will bring crime to, yet no, it won't. It's just, here, go ahead, idiot. Keep going.
They care more about guns than they care about synagogue worshipers. And they care more about guns than they do about college students.
Yeah, fuck you too.
What that means is that it does not matter how hard President Hemphill works, how hard the chiefs work, somebody will be a victim eventually.
Or,
it is a matter of time. And until
lunacy,
there's the political will to break the spell of the cult of gun absolutism, you will see more incidents like this.
Fuck
so
you.
if you're looking for somebody
Fuck
to blame,
you.
don't look at anybody up here.
Oh.
Look at our lawmakers who don't have the courage to implement sensible gun control measures. Look to a...
Yeah, and don't do this when you're trying to make a serious point and you know nothing about what you're talking about, motherfucker. Yeah, nice soapbox you got up there, but allow me to take it from you and say fuck directly off, because this is ridiculous. You know, I almost guarantee that you've never even touched a firearm in your life and you wouldn't know how to, and you'd probably be going, oh, a gun. But trust me, you know what you're doing. They can be pretty effective as a deterrent. As a deterrent. But, oh, absolutely not. The answer is not more guns, of course. Why not? Why not? Why is that not? Why does every law enforcement agency on the planet, well, not on the planet, in the country, given a little too much credit here, in the country, why do they carry guns? Why do they carry guns? Is it because it's going to escalate the problem? Or is it because it neutralizes a threat one way or another? Either seeing the gun, or if they, God forbid, have to use force, end the threat right there and then with the damage being minimal. Meaning a psychotic lunatic doesn't get to kill a bunch of people and then decide when they're finished. Someone who is entrusted to enforce the law decides, no, you're not going to do that, and we're going to put you down if we have to. And once again, with this ROTC instructor, same thing. Same thing. Are we going to just allow people to go into gun-free zones with their gun because they don't give a shit if it is a gun-free zone or not? Criminals won't care if they have to break the law to get a gun because they're criminals, duh. And just, I mean, I can't stand it when you get someone this arrogant who thinks they know all the talking points and they know all the flaws in it. No, you don't. Unfortunately, you don't. You don't seem to know much of anything. The only thing you do know is how to make an ass of yourself on the stand by demonizing the inanimate object that was used by the psychotic killer to murder a bunch of people, well, murder one person and almost kill two others. And who knows what more damage would have been done if the ROTC students were not freaking brave enough to cover for the fact that their so-called leaders are people who are going to sit here and advocate for the exact opposite of things that could improve these situations where things like this happen, of more of them not being killed. I get sick of this stupid talking point, because once again, it's hard to collect data on these things, but we know for a fact that guns are used in this country more often to stop threats than, almost for a fact. The data is so murky, it's hard to track. But considering the amount of people we know that are murdered, and I'm not talking about suicides, and I'm not talking about instances that would be instances involving a gun, or not a gun, a different type of weapon that is that's used to kill themselves. So suicides and and to kill other people. Suicides and weapons used to kill people that aren't guns. If we're just talking about guns and we're not talking about suicide in the guns, the amount of people that are killed is nowhere near the amount of people that are stopped. How many crimes are deterred and how many people are saved because someone used a gun? It's not even close. It's not even close. But they don't know that point. Why? They never looked into it. They don't even believe that guns are a deterrent to stop guns, because that's how insane they are. They don't understand what the concept of use of force is and why you might need to use it, despite the fact that the first person they call, or first call they make when there's a threat, is the police, and that's always because they have the guns. And it's just and yet, more regulations, more punishments for cops, ICE officers, and anybody in law enforcement that uses their firearm. It's like, it is insane. And a lot of people gave a lot of shit to the NYPD for not putting the guy down, because if you watch the footage from the guy who threw the bomb in New York City, there's cops that actually see him holding something. They see him standing holding it, and then a bunch of smoke come up after he lights it, but his back's turned, and then he starts taking off running, and they see obviously him holding something that is that's burning, or that's got some kind of fuse on it, whatever. And hey, stop, but they don't shoot. And I can only guess the reason why is, first off, they've got Zoran Mamdani as the mayor, and secondly, can you imagine how demoralized and how nervous people in that city are at this point, to the law enforcement are, and the NYPD are in that city, from using deadly force against somebody? I mean, not to say that it shouldn't be something that is, obviously treated with the level of respect that it deserves, but that's the point, is that people that it's without fail, people that understand firearms and use firearms have the appropriate level of respect and understanding of firearms and firearm safety, far more than anyone who is a reported, gun control activist or any of that shit. Like, they don't know anything about guns. They don't want to know anything about guns, because they treat guns like they're always the problem and never the solution, despite all of them having armed guards. Almost, at least the politicians. But once again, these are completely unserious people that have no idea what they're talking about, and of course they think that, because no one's ever told them anything about firearms or firearm safety. I was learning to use firearms by the time I was in my mid-teens, and it started off slow, and I only stuck to handguns for the most part while I was younger, but I'm a proud gun owner, and I've never once handled a firearm unlawfully, or without knowing exactly what I was doing and what the laws were going into every situation that I was in. I like target shooting. I like going to a range and target shooting. It's fun. But you know, I know, and unfortunately, you know, I'm not a gigantic guy. I can't afford to be a gigantic guy for all kinds of firearms. But I know a lot about firearms in terms of different types, different calibers, different method, like semi-automatic, lever action, bolt action, shotguns that pump action. Depending on what type of, and I guarantee you, most of those liberals have never even heard of, let alone know what they are. But yeah, it's just like how are you going to advocate for responsible gun ownership if you have no idea what you're talking about? You can't, and so you're going to offer up nothing but stupid garbage that might make people feel like something's being done. But that's another big problem too, is that feeling like you're getting something done, quote unquote, or the people that advocate just do something. Anything's better than nothing. No, that's not true either. Passing some ridiculous, stupid law with no real objective in mind other than to do something could very well lead to something bad happening that was an unintended consequence of the stupid legislation you passed out of ignorance. You can't pass something that you objectively can say is a good law, that you know is a good law that is going to for sure bring gun crime down, if you know nothing about guns or gun crime. So once again, it's just this is the exact kind of bullshit, same old song and dance from these people who, I'm sorry, but there's something uniquely arrogant about gun control activists who just think that they are just the most rational people on earth. And just look at this smug cocksucker. I swear, this is the kind of look from somebody who thinks he's wrong or thinks he's right, no matter how fucking wrong he is in every single discussion. Just what a fucking piece of garbage. Sorry. Go ahead, asshole.
Supreme Court that enables them and do something about it.
Enables them, yeah.
Oh, that
Because
is
of
the
the
lesson.
Constitution,
Let's
yeah.
warn the people who have died. Let's decry what has happened, but let's keep the focus where it belongs. It belongs on us and having to change something so that we don't have to suffer through this.
And so once again, the fact that the sheriff said 2 weeks, that's not a coincidental 2 weeks. Every law enforcement agent knew, or leader knew, that this war was going to have consequences in the homeland in ways that we are seeing. Well, that we could be seeing today.
So it's Trump's fault. No.
But in
Here's
ways
the one
that we
that takes
should anticipate
that route.
the longer this war goes.
Ton of DHS folks, CBP, and
so
they are
on
the call and they are doing their jobs. Certainly, we need to fund the Department of Homeland Security, and we need, in my view, to cut away all the conversation on ICE, which is its own conversation, from all the core missions of the Department of Homeland Security. But they're essential. They're on the job. They're working today.
The Republican Party is having right now a real fight on its hands, has a real fight on its hands amid wings of the Republican Party that are extremely anti-Semitic or flirting with anti-Semitism. And Republicans on the other side of the party who are saying, hold on, what are you doing? This is ripping us apart. Democrats are having a fight on that as well. But it's been pretty pronounced within the Republican Party.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's
Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson alone.
Yes, I mean, there's a bunch of different axes, and it gets.
This situation, this was an Israeli temple. It was aligned with Israel. I will say that.
A Jewish temple.
A Jewish
synagogue is not an Israeli temple.
It's called the real Israel temple.
They're Jewish.
Okay.
They're the people of Israel.
How do you just finish my point? So
how dismissive she is of that point. It was called the Israeli temple. Okay, but it's in the United States. They're not Israelis. They're Jewish people in a synagogue. That doesn't mean they're Israeli. Even if it's called an Israeli, even if Israeli is in the title, that doesn't make it a place where people go and suddenly they become Israeli. What the? And that's just to stoke the anti-Bibi narrative that they're trying to push, but yeah.
It was wrong from the premise. They're not Israeli. They're Jewish.
So they're called the real Israeli temple, yes? And they do...
It's like saying that, let's just say, the Roman Catholic Church means that these are Catholic people who are from Rome. Like, yeah, sure, okay, all right, yeah, that's totally understandable. And here's the main event. And by the way, this comes via one of our favorites, the Louder with Crowder. But this is the guy who had the bomb thrown over his shoulder, and what his thoughts are on this whole thing. So, wait, hold on. Yeah, that's kind of a side note. Not as important, but yeah, I think we'll just get right to this one because this is the more important part. If you watch how insane this guy is, it's just it's a sight to behold. But anyway, let's check this out. This is the guy who had the bomb thrown over his shoulder and what he thinks of that now. So.
We were born and raised in New York, and we want everyone here to stay in New York. You don't get to come from outside and then tell everyone else. You don't get to come from outside and tell everyone else.
That's me in the video getting a bomb thrown over my head. Let me just give you some context for what was happening. So this was at a rally hosted by white supremacist Jake Lang. He's a domestic terrorist from January 6th, pardoned by Donald Trump.
And by the way, that's what you really should be afraid of. Jake Lang, who was pardoned by Donald Trump, not the insane Islamic terrorist that threw a bomb over my shoulder not 10 feet away from me as it landed. And you notice as I just stood there kind of confused, what is this guy doing? What kind of... Well, you rapscallion, you... What are you up to? Gosh. The guy, I don't know if he has any idea how lucky he is that thing didn't go off, but... This, once again, let's draw attention to this, and not the Islamic terrorists, but this, Donald Trump, of course, and this evil January 6er.
He was holding an anti-Muslim rally when this guy jumped over me and committed an act of terrorism. That sounds confusing.
No,
start over.
No, it doesn't sound confusing at all.
Was holding the rally. He's known for three things: being a domestic terrorist from January 6th, pardoned by Donald Trump, losing to the letter S, and as we found out today, grooming 15-year-old girls. Jake Lang was holding this rally.
I'm sure that's true. You know, when your party keeps throwing around accusations of pedophilia, I really, really hope, or hebophilia to be probably more precise, but when your party gets sued for defamation at some point, I can only really hope. I really hope that your name is thrown into the mix because I'm getting so sick of this. It's been going on way too long now, and I just have to make this point that we need to somehow get this whole pedophilia accusation everywhere. This has got to stop. Like, this is getting out of control, that people are constantly saying, oh, these guys are pedophile. Oh, he's after these underage girls. It's like, okay, I don't know about Jacob Lang in like exactly what the case is against him, but because you've been throwing around the accusation against everyone, including Trump, for no other reason, not one other reason, other than the number of times his name appears in the Epstein file. Okay, and in what context? In a context that would make him sound guilty or not? Because sheer number doesn't equal guilt. Sorry. Especially when you know that he hates the guy's guts. I talked a lot about people that I hated the guts of. Didn't make them guilty of everything that they've been accused of because their name appeared over and over again in some guy's journal that hated him, or some guy's notebook that hated him, or some guy, whatever it is. It's unbelievable. It's just like that's the proof. And now we have another one. It's like they've just been doing it over and over again. Anybody that they don't like in the opposing party is always somebody who's apparently, oh, they're a pedophile. Oh, they're into young girls. Oh, and never one mention of people like Bill Clinton, or the fact that for example, considering that Jeff, God, why can't I? I'm forgetting his freaking name now because I've had to say it so much and I'm trying to forget it. Jesus Christ. Well, I'm seriously drawing a blank here. I can't believe it. Yeah. I can't believe it. I can't believe I'm actually drawing a blank to the most infamous name that's been thrown around a million times lately. Maybe this is me purging my brain of this shit because I'm so tired of thinking about it. It's cause seriously, like, how many times are we gonna have to hear about this shit? Epstein, I just remembered. But of course, now I don't remember what the point was. And you know what? Good riddance. I'm better that I don't remember the point because I'm tired and I'm sick and tired of Epstein. Yeah, just fucking tired. Oh, it was important though because it was more about Stacy Plaskett and the fact that this guy, Jeffrey Epstein, who is a registered Democrat, is texting another registered Democrat who happens to also be a member of the House of Representatives, who is in a hearing with Michael Cohen trying to prove some bullshit about Donald Trump, who Epstein hates, and Stacey Plaskett is in the party that hates, and they're trying to dig up dirt on him. And yet, it's the Republicans that are all trying to cover up for Epstein, and nobody is mentioned Stacey Plaskett at all anymore. The woman literally texting Epstein after he was already fucking caught, like, twice. Unbelievable. It's just insane. This is where we live now. That this is the kind of shit people can get away with if they just throw around the name and some bullshit talking points enough, then they'll be taken seriously. Just like this. Look at this fucking loser. Never done anything worthwhile in his life. I guarantee it. I don't have to know anything about him to know that much. And probably is pretty. I mean, let's be honest. I doubt this guy has much. Has a very positive self-image, so he has to go around and try to freaking interrupt and disrupt a bunch of freaking public functions and treat everybody else like dirt, demonize conservatives. He's just the same kind of stupid positions that all the leftists take. Meanwhile, the guy that threw a bomb over my shoulder, just forget about him. It's really Trump that's the problem. It's just disgusting. It's sick, but keep going.
Saying things like this.
America is a white Christian country.
If you're saying America is for white Christian men, you're a white supremacist. Now, I really
That's not what he said.
that I made a huge mistake.
He said America is a white Christian country. So let's be factual. If you can't even keep track of the actual words said in the video that you yourself are making, maybe you should do that. Which will be a very, very serious point of highlight in the next video we're about to bring up. But continue, loser. Let's go.
In not taking cover after this explosive device.
Well, let's hear that one more time. Let's hear that one more time.
A huge supremacist. Now, I really want to be clear that I made a huge mistake in not taking cover after this explosive device was thrown.
No.
If you're at a public event and someone throws what looks like an explosive device, you're not a wimp for taking cover.
Is it common?
You know what the truth of that is? I guarantee you, this guy's got a huge chip on his shoulder because of how much he's been fucking, made fun of and looked at like a fucking wimp for most of his life. And you know why? Because he's a coward who wouldn't even call out a guy because he's Islamic because the guy threw a bomb over his shoulder. I'm sorry, you're a fucking coward. And it's not because you didn't hide from the bomb. It's because you didn't hide from the bomb because you're too worried about the image of Muslims in the United States.
Protesting, making Jake Lang look like the idiot that he is. When these two idiots came along and committed an act of terrorism, they could not have done more to legitimize Jake Lang's white supremacist
yeah, this is the same thing that they've been doing a lot lately, where once again, it's like, it's not about what actually, it's like the Zohran Mamdani argument that hated 9/11 because his aunt couldn't wear a hijab on the subway anymore. Like, are you fucking kidding me? And your problem with these guys is that, not that they threw a bomb, but that it takes the focus away from Jake Lang and his evil domestic terrorist activities of, like, January 6th. Like, but then again, I mean, your party is the party that's so fucking stupid that they equate the two. The January 6th is even worse than 9/11. Yeah, wow. I can't believe that this is the level of people that are. These are the average people of the Democrat Party at this point, and I'm floored by that because it's true. You know, unfortunately enough, it's true. So this is just so.
They literally threw the bomb over my head while I was talking about inclusion. The CIA should definitely be paying them at this point. I just want to reiterate that I was not practicing safety that day. I could have been killed, and that weighs very heavy on both me and my family. And all that being said, I'm not going to use this as an excuse to be a xenophobic bigot. Elon Musk and all of right-wing media are having a field day right now because I am choosing inclusion and not bigotry. I still stand by my original point, which is I'm a native New Yorker. I was born and raised in New York. New York City is for everyone, except for terrorists who throw bombs and goat fucking white supremacists.
He is a progressive comedian, this Masterson, who
makes
his bones trolling conservatives. That's his thing.
Now let's see what he does
the
here.
names of the 9 people that were killed by ICE this month. I'm reading names of people killed by ICE. You're going to touch me? You're going to touch me? Alex Preddy, Renee Good, Keith Porter, Parody Law. These people were killed by ICE this month. 9 people were killed by ICE this month. And you're throwing me out while I'm reading their names? You are funding our occupation.
So we're in Minneapolis right now. We're going ice fishing. This is an ICE vehicle right here. And we can tell it's an ICE vehicle because it has out-of-state plates because it's a rental. They rent the cars by the day from local rental. And there's a cage. Is that a cage in there? Yep, cage in the back. Cage in the...
Because we've never seen a cage that, or you know, some kind of mesh metal barricade that, I don't know if you know this, but to protect the officers from the criminals that they arrest, who very often would be attempting to, sometimes even through the mesh barricade, are trying to attack the officers. What, are they pussies like you because they need a mesh barricade up, which actually protects them from the criminals that they just arrested? That makes them what? I would say smart, but I guess in your case, it what? Bigots? What a piece of shit.
Backseat, they take a rental car and they outfit it with a damn cage.
Oh, a goddamn cage.
What? It's pretty funny stuff.
This guy has a Patreon. It reads, funded by you, hated by fascists. And on his website, he sells merchandise like Karl Marx's daddy greeting cards, socialism and Antifa branded mugs, and an Eat the Rich t-shirt for $40. An Eat the Rich t-shirt for $40. Ours are less, by the way.
Oh, and just because this was something that I was considering for the intro instead of the other video that I had, which I had to show Destiny for what a fucking idiot he's been lately. But just for you guys, I'll show you the quick little follow-up to that, which was to make fun of his little Antifa mugs, too. So here's the last one I'll show there.
The mug, actually, I should be clear, is a prop from, he's a comedic writer, his failed sitcom pilot, ANTIFA. Faggot. And here's the thing.
I don't see why NBC didn't pick it up.
I don't know either.
I don't either. It's weird,
Anti-Friends.
There we go. That was worth it. But anyway, so yeah, you see, here's the takeaway, in my opinion, from all this is that that it's getting far, far worse. Every day it's getting far, far worse. If you are at all somebody who is more concerned about the threat of the border having been open for just about 4 straight years, and literally anyone who wanted to come across, didn't matter if they had any paperwork on them or not, didn't matter if they if they said the words asylum, then they're pretty much always let through. Not to mention the fact that there were people who didn't want to go through that way because they're a little worried about having their names on the books for one reason or another, which I can guess why they wouldn't want to have their names on the books. But there are people that did it that way too, and they were the ones called gotaways, either known gotaways or unknown gotaways, to make sure that we have no idea exactly how many people are actually in this country illegally right now. And rather than being concerned about that, these people are still concerned about January 6th and the absolutely unexcusable activity that was carried out that day by the evil white supremacists who are here to overthrow our democracy and promote the hateful rhetoric of bigots and white supremacists. Why?
That's 8-8.
That's right. You listen to Frank Fugasi. Thank you very much, freaking Dan Bongino, for bringing my attention to that guy and his quote about what was it again? Oh, yeah.
That's 8-8.
That's right. If you know, you know. Which, by the way, that was in response to them flying the flag at half-mast for, I don't remember who it was. Somebody they said was a white supremacist. So, of course, God forbid. But anyway, yeah, this is just gotten to a point where it would be. Well, I say this a lot, but it would be laughable if it wasn't so completely and utterly unhinged and dangerous at this. I mean, this really is. We're getting into territory. I don't say this very often, but this is getting really dangerous, really, really dangerous now, because now we're seeing the left taking on the business of not just excusing, but encouraging even more crime and more attacks on this society, because it's just filled with people like Jacob Lang, who was pardoned by the evil Donald Trump and his administration on January 6th. It's just, and luckily, I can at least say one thing, and I have noticed this being true lately, that January 6th and defending democracy and Donald Trump trying to be a dictator and all that rhetoric's not working like it used to. It's like people are finally getting sick and tired of it, I think, and they see the unhinged lunatics that are out there that constantly are repeating these points over and over and over again, and have been since 2016. And now they are kind of reaching a point where they're recognizing that, look, maybe the economy's not exactly where we want it, but he wasn't lying about like the tariffs predictions from the left. That was false. The border was closed right away. Although I have to say this, although Russia and Ukraine is still a problem, I don't think anyone would have predicted. It's amazing even to me that up until this point, the treaty or the ceasefire from Gaza and Israel, it's held. There hasn't been any more conflict any more serious major conflict that's been arising. So there's that. They've wiped out Hezbollah from the Israeli forces to the most. The leader of Hezbollah has been taken out. Hamas is pretty much down to a shell of what it ever used to be in any form, and when there's been a problem that the people have had, the president has addressed it. The policies that he promised to follow through with, like no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, the tax his tax policy got reapproved and is back in action. The economy might be inflated slightly based on the current actions that are going on in the Middle East, but the strike on Iran the first time didn't cause World War III like Dave Smith and Tucker Carlson were insisting it was going to happen. And I think people are starting to come around to the fact that maybe this is all just a giant freaking ridiculous spurg out session by the left in massive fashion. And maybe, just maybe, this isn't the kind of nightmare doomsday scenario they keep telling us it is, because he's been talking about Rubio and he's been talking about Vance as contenders in 2028. Maybe he's not going to run again, which I guarantee you he's not. But like it's just nothing they say is sticking. Nothing they say is adding up. Nothing they say is actually a point that seems like it's really reliable and something that like their predictions are just not the case. And then here we also have everything that he's been promising, at least something he's trying to do when it comes to things like the ballrooms, like don't you think that a country like ours that not only is the most powerful country in the world but hosts all these events and dinners and things for foreign diplomats and all these international gatherings, you think we should at least at the White House have an indoor ballroom instead of tents on the fucking lawn? Don't you think that's a little bit more presentable, like than like something as ridiculous as we'll just set up some tents on the lawn, it'll be fine, there's no problem? No, that is a little bit of a presentation issue, I'd say. So, I mean, and on top of that, once again, is that taxpayer funds? Is that the funds of the American people? No, that's the funds of Donald Trump and some other donors that said, yeah, we'll pitch in, of course. So unless your biggest issue is the way that they're naming buildings and you hate the names they're choosing, I'd say that this administration is pretty much doing everything that they, and if you, by the way, I've heard enough, I mentioned this last episode, if there was something you didn't understand about Trump's stance on Iran and how for decades he's been saying they cannot be allowed to have a nuclear weapon, if there's something uncertain you're unable to understand from that statement, then maybe it's your fault and not Trump's fault that you were quote unquote suckered into voting for this guy who was there was no lie, there was no misdirection or deception. He's been clear on Iran. They cannot be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. So when uranium enrichment reaches, which I just heard Sri Tanadar today talk about how they were at 60%, and of course that you cannot build a nuclear weapon at 60%. That's a, yeah, but at 60%, you've reached a point that no other country in the world has ever needed to reach for anything other than nuclear weapons. So you got another excuse, you dumb shit. Anyway, so and that's all they've got. That's the big collection of I don't know. That's the big collection of terrible objections to Trump that they have. Oh, and of course that he's killing innocent civilians. I've gone over this before, but we'll give the stats one more time. First of all, when you hear the 14% stat, because this was stuff that I just was listening to in that stupid interview. Not stupid, by the way. The host, which, by the way, Katie Pavlich, is now hosting a show on News Nation. Really good. News Nation, I think. Right? Yeah. Yeah. I believe so. Anyway, cool new show, and it's great. I've always liked Katie. I've always very much liked Katie. She's not the one I was hinting at before, although, she very well could be. But no. No, it's a really good show. And of all people, she had Sri Tanadar on. I don't know why he accepted, but, well, actually I do. He's desperate for attention anywhere he can get it. But man, she grilled the hell out of him perfectly. But anyway, he was using the same old freaking ridiculous talking points like, there's only 14% people who cross the border that have any kind of criminal record whatsoever. Well, no, not exactly. There's 14% that have a violent criminal record, and as we learned from our friend Bill O'Reilly, what is not considered a violent crime? Well, possession or distribution of child pornography, check. Drunk driving, check. Resisting arrest, yeah, check on that one as well. And the one I remember the most, because I really don't understand this one. It's even in the name of the offense, domestic abuse, not a violent offense. Yeah, don't get it, but somehow that's not a violent offense. It's a violent action, but not a violent offense. I don't know. I have no idea. That just screams to me of one thing. And I don't know.
You are fake news.
That's what it screams. Yeah. So anyway, I guess I'll move on and get to the next thing, because this is really the last and kind of main event of today. I usually don't like talking about people that really annoy the hell out of me, to be honest, because quite frankly, there's a lot of people, and they really get me fucking going after a while. But to be honest, the combination of factors on this one. Number one, it's a video from a guy who I actually really like his work. I respect the hell out of him, because he came up out of nowhere really fast, and now he's been collaborating with a lot of people all over the place, like from so many different spectrums of far right, moderately right, moderate in general, or moderate left, moderate, not moderate left, but left-wing Democrat, insane Democrat. Like, he's talking to everybody, and not just that, but I respect him for his work throughout his life, and what he's tried to accomplish, what he's succeeded in accomplishing, and how he's doing now. Warren Smith, and he's just been, when you see him in interviews, he is probably the most unconfrontational, reasonable sounding person that you'll ever see in any kind of online space. Like, he doesn't have any kind of ego. He doesn't have any kind of personality that is seemingly out to just be, just to be out for himself or just push a perspective. It's nothing like that. It's a guy who seems to genuinely be searching for the truth of any given situation, and talking to people who he's interested to talk to, and hear their perspective on things, especially if they disagree and where they disagree. And unfortunately for him, he ran into someone who, I have to say, we've seen We've seen Destiny. We've seen Hassan Piker. We've seen what's that weirdo's name that's got well, there's David Packman, there's Sam Cedar. We've seen all these people, right? These absolutely egregious, two-faced sons of bitches in life. Ethan Klein, that's who I was thinking of. We've seen a lot of very egregious people. But I've yet to introduce you to the most angry, unhinged, and quite frankly delusional leftist who's not there based on like his actual intelligence level that would be something that the crowd would perceive to be just this guy that's really smart. He comes off as a complete and total spurg. He devolves into raving anger very quickly. And he is a total buffoon. Josh, not him. That's a governor. Brian Shapiro. Brian Shapiro, as he never lets people forget, he has a radio show. He does a radio show where he takes calls from all over the country, and somehow or another they all agree with him, and they all just suck his dick too every time they come on. It's pretty sad, but this guy is. I've never heard a guy who refuses to even answer a question about an argument. Even Destiny, while his definitions of when he's asked to provide them are paper thin and easily debunked, at least he puts something out there. At least he tries to put something out there. This guy doesn't even bother. He turns it into another way to just turn it around and insult you again. This guy absolutely has no fucking idea what it is he's advocating for. He doesn't, I'm guessing he doesn't watch or listen to one conservative source out there. He takes points that are said by other Democrats and uses them as absolute true talking points whenever he's discussing anything. And he's another guy that just says racism is everywhere and everything. And of course, women are suppressed and men are evil, and especially white men are behind everything that's wrong with the world. And he's got the most boilerplate, typical leftist perspective on everything. And sadly, he went up against Warren Smith in some sort of, I guess, what was supposed to be a discussion. It turned out to be a debate or an argument, and you could just tell by the hostility. While Warren is actually presenting himself as composed, honest, and just putting in full display how absolutely unhinged this fucking moron is. And despite that, and aside from that, you can catch in this little back and forth how he has no definition. He has no way to describe or define any of the points he's talking about. He doesn't think it's necessary. He pretends like it's totally common sense, despite the fact that there's obviously a disagreement when there is this consensus he's speaking about. And to top it all off, he really even in this debate, he literally says, I'm much smarter than you. And when I heard that, I was like, okay, jackass. All right, let's put this on my show, and I'll see what the people who watch. Let's see what they think. Let's see. Do you think he's smarter than Warren Smith? I don't know, just watch this little debate, and believe me, I cut this down. I had to cut this down because, man, this was long, but it's worth paying attention to. So let's get to this. There's one other last thing I'm going to play at the end. It's short though, and I'm not going to interrupt it. I'm just going to play it straight through because it's really, in this case, it's something really profound, and I think it's really worth hearing. But that's coming right after this. So, because I went 3 hours last time, I'm trying not to go that long this time, although we'll probably come pretty close. But let's get started on this, and then we will go on and move to the ending. But for now, just watch the mental gymnastics of this son of a bitch who can't, who can't do anything but he just disagrees to continue to disagree. And it's something you just see all the time on the left because they can't ever concede that they have anything in common with people on the right. And because Warren is not somebody who's really someone on the right per se, he's pretty reasonable, but at the very end he finally concedes after the whole discussion that Warren actually did take a perspective that he agreed with in one of his videos. He just completely forgot about it. Just completely forgot that Warren did a video where he not only agreed, he highlighted Brian Shapiro in the video. So he's even mad at people that have previously agreed with some of his perspectives. But that's the problem, is that nothing's ever enough for people like this. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Let's see how long you can actually last with this son of a bitch talking. One, the only, Brian Shapiro. And his point of contention mostly is Steven Crowder in this, despite he's talking to Warren Smith. But yeah, here we go. Oh, volume. Now here we go.
You don't think Crowder is a racist? Is that a fair characterization on your opinion?
Yeah. If your definition of racism is hating everyone who is black, for example, racist towards black.
Yeah, I mean, being racist towards a certain group of people because of the color of their skin, or maybe what they look like, or maybe
what does race mean?
When you take a group of people, it could be because of skin color or because of the origin of where they are from, and you make judgments about them and or attack them because of their skin color. You make assumptions about them.
That's it? Just judgments and assumptions? That's all it takes?
No, it's not just that. There are a lot of other factors that go into it.
If I were to make fun of people wearing baggy pants, or not baggy pants, sorry, sagging their pants. Because I think it's
this is where that whole thing started. But
I do. I think it's silly. If I were to make fun of that, would that meet your definition of racism? And I were to act it out, if I were to dress like Lil Wayne and talk like Lil Wayne,
I guarantee you,
would I meet your definition?
You're saying if you
right now, if I were to start to mimic Lil Wayne in an effort to mock sagging pants and that meme, would that meet your definition?
I mean, that's not really what we were talking about.
No, it obviously would. It obviously would.
It's the exact same logic.
No, attacking somebody for their race is exactly what racism is.
See, that you're weaponizing this term attack, which is a leftist tactic.
Again,
claim that any what is an attack? You can't.
All
even
right,
tell
that
me
would be like me saying
the
they're using
standard of an attack.
by the way, he can't stand it when you call him a leftist because he's an independent, which, all these fucking dipshit streamers and YouTubers and by the way, he's not somebody who, I guess, maybe he considers himself an influencer. Of course, I'm sure he does, but he's not actually doing a live stream. He does a radio show, which, by the way, is probably actually much worse than trying to do. I mean, put it this way, I guarantee you, Crowder and I'm trying to think of another really good example of somebody who does live stream nah, he's just for some reason I'm sure. Okay, Michael Knowles, or even Matt Walsh. I guarantee you they do way more numbers than this guy. Crowder most certainly does, but because it's a radio show, he's gonna lump himself in, which he's friends with all the big name streamers. I saw him talking to Andrew Wilson, did a debate with Not So Erudite. I hadn't even really heard of that bitch much until I watched this debate, and she just disagrees for the sake of disagreement. That's what I gathered from, or she has a serious personal problem with Andrew Wilson. That's all I could really gather from that. But he was having her on, and my God, was he just kissing her ass. Like the whole time was this freaking ass kiss session, and just just constantly jabs against freaking Andrew Wilson, jabs against his friends, and jabs against his Rob Noor and Jake Rattlesnake, I guess is the official name of him. I'd like people I've watched and I've agreed with and disagreed with a bunch of times, but I'd never ever called him anything defamatory. I just don't agree with everything, which nobody does. But the point is that this guy just loved it. And of course he thought you made a fool of Andrew. It's like, yeah, really. Look at the demographics on that and see where it lands, because I guarantee you it's not exactly where you think, Brian boy. But unfortunately, it's like this guy. He has no shame. He has no restraint. He is a complete coward and a hyperbolic fool who just loves to use most bad faith discussion points to smear everyone he's talking to and paint them in the worst light possible. And then that's how he thinks he has got the high ground against pretty much everybody he discusses. Meanwhile, he has no problem, labeling everybody racist, everybody as a white supremacist, and everybody is. I think I've even heard him call black people white supremacists in some cases because they're conservative. Yeah, Brian, no, I may be wrong about that, so don't use that as like my talking point that was really the slam dunk. I think if you want to use one of those, it's brown nosing, not so erudite for your entire freaking show. But yeah, and in this one, it's the idea that somehow Warren Smith, not just Steven Crowder, but Warren Smith is actually a racist. So let's hear it, Brian. Let's hear it. Go ahead.
You want to play that word game with me, Warren? I'll do the same to you.
Sorry, but one more thing. The idea of defining racism, because the left has no real definition for racism, it's just whatever they decide is racism at the moment. Because Warren wants it to be laid out in a definition, he calls it word games. He always calls it word games. And I'm like, you're all over the place all the time. It might help to kind of have somebody that you're debating against know what you mean by what you say, but then again, you're a leftist, so you don't mean anything by what you say. You mean it it means whatever you want it to mean in any given moment, which means it has no definition, which means it's pointless, which is exactly the reason Hitler and racist and sexist and all these terms now, they mean nothing because people like you cheapened them to the point that they mean jack shit. So, but by all means, keep going.
This MAGA right-wing tactic of defending racism and attacking brown people, you're doing it right now. If you want to play that stupid worm game with me, because you're not smarter than me, okay? I think you're a smart guy, but you're not smarter than me. You might think.
So let me get this straight, too. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to keep pausing it, but I'll stop after this. I'll try to, really. Warren Smith, who was teaching an entire high school of kids who had flunked out of every other high school or had disciplinary issues in every other high school they've been to, and this was pretty much their last possible choice left to actually be able to get their act together and graduate, and had to be in charge of teaching that class, while you get to make shitty arguments on your radio show that you can redefine words, redefine terms, redefine historical meaning of everything, and never answer a question when it comes to pinning down a definition of anything. He's not intelligent. He's not as intelligent as you. You're more intelligent. You, the dumbass dipshit who spurgs out and calls people racist constantly because you have no other way to defend yourself. You're smarter. Okay. Yeah, Brian. Man, that man. I really see that in all the content that comes out from say Warren, who, man, it's just bottom of the barrel slop. There's nothing to be gained from it. From you all, got nothing but wisdom. It's like crystallized wisdom every time I watch your show. or like crystallized, bullshit. But yeah, man, I see it. Look at the big cranium here. Look at how smart this guy is. Yeah, I'm sure he's got 2 brain cells to rub together, maybe, and that man, super intelligent. That puts him ahead of a few leftists, at least. I guess that's a benefit.
I think you are, but you're not. And the fact of the matter is that if you're going to use these stupid word game, that's a leftist tactic. You're doing a rightist tactic. You're doing a MAGA right-wing racist tactic in defending the indefensible. Unlike you, and unlike your racist, bigot, piece of human scum friend, yes, Steven Crowder's a piece of human scum, and he wouldn't have the guts to have me on
DEI racist?
Destroy him. There you go again with the whataboutisms.
Is DEI racist?
That wasn't a whataboutism.
I know you want to talk about DEI. It's your favorite
You're not
topic.
going to be able to answer because you can't define racism.
Yes, I can define racism.
Racism, define it.
Racism is what you've been defending for the last 30 minutes. I'll define it again for you because I said
you haven't defined it once.
I've given you the answers. When you take a group of people, it could be because of skin color or because of the origin of where they are from, and you make judgments about them and or attack them because of their skin color. You make assumptions about them.
That's it? Just judgments and assumptions? That's all it takes?
No, it's not just that. There are a lot of other factors that go into it.
Because
Can you look at me right now with a straight face, Warren, and tell me this stuff isn't racist stuff?
I could
You
do
haven't
it.
told me how you define
I don't
racism.
know what the stuff is,
All right, so
but
we're going to
it's
get
not
into a word game
racist
now.
too.
Okay, let me define you what I think racism is. And by the
You
way,
see why that's important, though,
this
right?
is
Because you
nonsense.
can mean something completely different than me. I told you my definition, and nothing you provided would meet that definition.
Okay, well,
Listen to
you
how
can play
calm
word
Warren
games
is
with
this
you,
whole
Warren, but this is when I
time.
get frustrated with you. When you attack somebody
You're
because
frustrated
they're
because he's
Asian
calm as a
and you
cucumber
attack
and
their
you're
physical
flipping out like a
appearance,
lunatic.
that is the definition of racism. When
How
you
did he attack someone? That's not an
did
attack.
you not just hear what I just read?
Yeah, I
You're
don't think any of that would constitute
Warren,
an
you are
attack.
being so disingenuous to me right now in defending your friend. It is pathetic. And I'm getting, no, it's
He's
not
on a
okay.
show like one
Why
time.
can't you just say what he said was wrong? And that's racist.
By what
Why are you
standard?
not capable of, I can see why you defend, and with all due respect.
This is just logic, man.
No, it's
I
not
don't know.
logic. You're
Yes, it's
defending
absolutely
racism and
logic.
bigotry. That's why
You haven't defined
Racism and bigotry.
I
yeah.
just
How can I
told
tell you?
When you make, you don't know what racism is? Tell
I
me
told
right
you my
now.
definition.
Okay,
It would
so
be
answer-
hatred. Okay, go ahead.
So answer the question. When he attacks a woman because she's Asian and attacks
Oh.
the look of her face,
How's that an attack?
you want me to?
By the way, just so you know, because this is pathetic that he would use this. I know exactly what he's referencing. The Young Turks they fucking went after him for this. Just to give you the idea, the caliber of argument he's using here. The Young Turks went after Steven Crowder because of this. It is so stupid. There was a broadcast that was on one of the news channels at one point. It was a long time ago at this point. I don't even know what it was, but it wasn't really something like particularly overtly like super controversial or anything. It was just a broadcast about something, and the camera was or there was some scenes playing that were just getting some B-roll footage or whatever. And then a hard cut to this Asian broadcaster who they had framed in a way that she was taking up almost the whole screen with just her face. And they just went, whoa, she has a really, she's a really wide face or something. Like they just said something that was like a really distracting face, like something that was just like, because of the hard cut from one thing to another, it was really jarring. You just see an Asian woman in the next, or it might have even said like a very Asian face, like it was just like, it was such a hard it cut, and the reporter was such a contrasting image from everything that they had just been looking at, that it made it stand out. And she was Asian, so he said something about her having an Asian, but he didn't say kind of any racist Asian tropes. He didn't use any type of language that would suggest like he was making an Asian slang joke. He just stated something that was obvious about the way the broadcast was shot. That's it. And they made it this huge point of contention where it was like, oh man, he is making fun. He didn't even say anything negative. He didn't say she was ugly. He didn't say that she had a like a despicable looking face or a gross looking face. It was nothing like that. He didn't insult her at all. It was more an insult on the camera work, to be honest. But this is the big point of racism. This is the big racism that Brian Shapiro is so bothered by from Steven Crowder that he'd do this. I'm like, just, motherfucker, grow up. Grow the fuck up. Get the fuck over yourself too. My God. It's unbelievable that this is the level of, once again, he can't define racism. He can't define anything he's thrown at him, really, because it's not beneficial enough to define it. He'd rather it be an ambiguous term so he can label everything racism. And then, Warren gave it a long time ago. He doesn't agree that it's, when you, as far as I'm concerned, racism is pretty simple. You consider your race of people to, your race or a race of people superior to another race by no real metric and nothing presentable, just superiority over another race because of their race, and that's it. Like, if you think that your race, by definition and no other qualifier, your race is, this race you're highlighting is superior, or this other race is just inferior to all other races by virtue of nothing but their race, that's racism. And he doesn't, it's making judgments and or attacking them. So making judgments and or attacking. So you can just make judgments or you can attack them. And either one of them is racism. And this is why his argument is fucking stupid. Because that's ridiculous. People make judgments about people all the time. It has nothing to do with racism. If you're judging somebody, it's not the best thing to do, but that's certainly not racism. And by the way, it's like, once again, you can talk about like judgments and stereotypes and like, man, Asian people are really smart. That's not a really, that's not a really good thing to say according to, stereotypes about demographics. But that doesn't mean it's a racist statement to make. It's not pretty, but it's not a negative racial stereotype that you're promoting. It might not be appreciated by someone who is Asian. But that doesn't mean it's on the level of black people should be slaves. Like, we're talking about something that has a stigma behind it that, when you're somebody on the left, you're evoking it because you're trying to smear somebody because you want them to be painted in the worst light possible. And now we're conflating it with some woman who's employed by a broadcast company of a news company and is on camera talent. And because Steven Crowder mentioned something about how jarring a transition to her face was, that's Asian hate and racism. Meanwhile, the same news companies were doing everything possible to make mention of all the Asian people who were getting attacked in New York City and especially in San Francisco, and how it's despicable. The problem was they didn't want to show any of them because it was usually black people that were assaulting them. I'm not saying that because it's not. It's just something I'm pulling out of my head. No, like almost every single bit of footage I saw of Asian people getting attacked on the subway, in their homes, in their driveways, in their walking down the street was by black people, specifically black men, who would just pop up and sucker punch them. Almost every single bit of footage. So, are black people racist against Asian people? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But regardless, the news companies sure as hell seem pretty hesitant. And why? Well, because let's just put it this way. If it was white people that was walking up and sucker punching Asian people, I guarantee you it would have been on every single news broadcast in the country over and over and over again about the evil white racists attacking Asian people. And it's just... So once again, this is an agenda that's based on all these freaking points that have nothing to do with real racism, and they have to do with control and Democrat strategy for elections. I mean, that's all it is. But you can see Brian is definitely on board with that. He's really looking to make sure that he ousts all these bigots and white racists. Just... what a fucking piece of shit. What a piece of shit.
Read the quote again? Do I have to read it again to you?
I would love to.
So he's making fun of someone. How's that an attack? He's
And
a
why
comedian.
is he making
You could
fun of them
loosely say
because
he
of
was
their
making
looks?
fun of her.
comedian.
But
Again, we
it's
can
more
play
like making
word
fun of
games, and I already
news
gave you.
station to
Not a
me.
word game. It's
No, it's you.
words have definitions.
It's you
You're
trying.
asking if something meets the standard
It's you
of a
trying to
word.
play. It's you trying to play philosophy word games when you know exactly what you can laugh all you want to, Warren. When you know what racism is, and you defend Elon Musk.
I know I do. I just told you my definition. Do you
Okay, so
agree with my definition, or do you have a different definition?
So this isn't racism at all. When you mock
Not
a
by
black,
my definition.
we talked about hate. Don't you
Okay,
think that's
what is
interesting?
hate speech?
Now we're going into the word game again.
Yeah, it's word
okay. So hold
games
on.
again.
So if somebody
Definitions.
says, all Jews,
that's why you're a leftist. You consider definitions to be a word game.
that's why you're a rightist, because you have no problem
I'm
defending.
sorry. One more thing. I think I don't remember if I mentioned this already, but the reason he gets so mad when he says leftist, I don't think so, because he considers himself an independent. It's like, you are not a fucking independent motherfucker. I have seen you on every show that has been available where you've been talking to somebody that's on the opposing end, aka conservative. I've never seen you be anywhere near as hostile to anybody on the left. I've never seen you criticize anybody on the left at all. And I've never seen you take so much offense as you do against anybody who is sympathetic to the right or to Donald Trump. Wow, what independent positions those are. Fuck you. Fuck you. Come to grips with yourself and accept it, you fucking piece of shit. Sorry, I'm getting a little angry about this, but this guy, this is what I mean. This is why I try not to watch this asshole too much, because he is literally, like, you'll see in this, like, he interrupts constantly. He reiterates a point over and over again to drive home how, in his mind, oh, well, you don't think that he's actually you really think he's not a race? You really think this isn't a race? Like, he'll just interrupt with that specific line over and over and over again to try and drive home that this guy's obviously so well, I don't know. I barely get to hear much of what he has to say, asshole. Maybe if I did, and I was hearing less of you basically deciding to categorize it yourself with no real reference to anything that you're saying, just this constant endless list of points that you think make him look bad or whatever it is. Like, just, I can't even find the word. It's insane. It's insane. It's just a very angry guy.
Definitions?
No, because you don't care about discrimination. That's why you're a rightist. If you want
I
to play
don't
that
care
stupid
about
game,
discrimination.
no, I don't think you do, Warren. Because when one of your friends goes on a podcast with
How
millions,
is Crowder discriminating?
oh, because you're. Is that a
Goes on
joke?
a
When I give
podcast
you jokes about slavery, which they've made on the show, which I'm not going to repeat the jokes that Crowder has made about slavery, and his co-host Dave Landau. They've made jokes about slavery. And you could look me in the eye and say, oh, that's okay because he's just a comedian. Or we have to look at the context of it.
You'd have to read the joke.
It's people like this asshole that ruin comedy too.
How am I supposed to pass judgment without knowing what was said?
So you don't want to pass any judgment, but we'll get into the Biden stuff.
How could I without knowing what was said?
Yeah. Okay. So I gave you the quote
not
of what he said
reasonable?
about. No, I don't think you're being reasonable. I think you're making.
How can I judge something if I don't know what I'm judging?
When he mocks Kamala Harris for being a fake black,
he might hate Kamala Harris. That doesn't mean he hates all black people for being black.
Why is she not black? Why would he say that then? Is that just funny because he's a comedian?
I'll tell you why. Because when she first went to Congress, because she got voted in, and she touted over and over again that she was the first Indian American congresswoman, then suddenly, when Biden is looking for a black woman for his VP, and she suddenly just becomes his VP because she's obviously black, and then people go back and say, now, wait a minute. I thought she was not black and she was Indian American. No, how dare you say it? It just got cut off at the pass over and over and over again. And people just have no memory, so they don't remember these sorts of things. And unfortunately, once again, it's just a stupid point because, sorry, she herself, people have even, they really were dedicated to this. So they deep dove into like Kamala Harris's family tree. It's like, yep, not one person in here of
any kind of black descent. They're all from countries. Now, they're people of color. They're people from nations aside from the United States, and they're from countries typically of darker-skinned individuals, but none of them are black. None of them are black. They're fairly dark-skinned, but they're not black. Now, I hate I even have to go into detail like this because it really doesn't matter to me, but it mattered to Joe Biden. And why is that? Because he promised he was going to have a black woman as his vice president. And if you're going to ride that wave and use it to get the black vote or get people on your side because you're black, then sorry, if I find out that that's bullshit, and that's the whole purpose of your campaign is to ride the wave of whites are racist and black people deserve this and that, then I'm going to call you out if you're not actually black. Sorry, you don't get to change your fucking race as soon as it becomes politically expedient for you. Just like you, who uses race as a cudgel in your every single argument, doesn't get to say that Kamala Harris is a victim of anti-black racism. Sorry. Maybe you should be a little bit more comfortable with your own history. And maybe you should stop fucking kissing the ass of every fucking leftist you come across and stop taking up every lefty cause because it seems to be getting you really angry about everything. There's actually, well, I'll wait till the end of the discussion to mention this because this is just insane. But yeah, this is.
What does that have to do with anything that
I'm
we're
asking
talking
you.
about?
It has
I don't know. What's the theory
because he's a
behind Kamala
racist. That's
Harris?
why. That's what it has to do with it.
The validity of it has nothing to do with whether or not it's racist.
I'm going to speak very slowly for the MAGA buffoon because yes, now I'm using ad hominem attacks because now you're starting to.
Isn't that a stereotype? Aren't you being stereotypical?
No, not
I feel
everybody.
attacked,
not
Brian.
everybody. Yeah, guess what? I'll define it for you. Not
what right do you have to attack me?
I'll tell you the right I have. It's my radio show, not yours. Here's number
And
two.
there's the radio show, yeah.
I never said that
fair.
everybody who voted for Trump is a MAGA buffoon. I just think you are.
He's
You
got
see
the leftist
difference,
cheers
Warren?
tumbler.
So now let me answer the question again for the 11th time, and I'll speak very slowly and distinctly.
You're allowed to feel that way. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay. I mean, it's very frustrating, but
we'll just take a breath. We can walk through it.
Well, I mean, it's very frustrating that you can't admit that this is wrong and this is racism. And now I could also go into some statements about his personal life.
Brian, do you see why it's important, though, if you're asking me, is this racist? We should be able to agree upon what racism is. And you're going to say, no, Warren, you're just playing a word game. That's basic.
I've been very clear.
No, you haven't been very clear about anything.
It's basic logic to most people that Steven Crowder's a racist, but I'll give you my
when you're on the left and you
this
take
is why
things,
I think you are a leftist. This is extreme stuff.
like this is cult
What's your
shit.
point, though?
My point is, I think you're disingenuous. I think all of a
You
sudden,
think I'm intentionally pretending not to know things?
I think sometimes, yes. I think that you support Donald Trump, and sometimes, well, I don't know enough about that, so I can't really comment on it.
Wow, man, because that's
That's called honesty,
being
jackass.
reasonable in my mind. It's amazing. That's another thing that indicates to me a leftist ideology. When someone says I don't know,
He's so angry about that because he's an independent. He's
disingenuous.
Mr.
There's no way
Independent.
they couldn't actually know. Everything's a tactic to you.
It's not when
definitions are a word game.
It's not when somebody says they don't know. It's when someone is in the same industry that I am that is supposed to cover news for a living. Let me ask you another.
Cover news for a living, man. I make YouTube videos about critical thinking.
Do you ever make YouTube videos about Donald Trump's lack of critical thinking? Can you please tell me a video that you've ever posted on your YouTube page that has a gazillion followers that has criticized Donald Trump for his critical thinking? One. Name me one, Warren.
But this is great.
In the response to the shooting. The one I did with you in it. Trying to find peace, find common ground. Can we find peace?
He's so
and I was saying
angry.
this is a dangerous road we're going down. There are mistakes being made on the right, and people that are acting like there's no mistakes being made. This is only going to make things worse.
So you made a video saying that there were mistakes made on the right after doing my show. Okay, I'm glad to hear that. I didn't see that video.
You did. You emailed me about it and said good video. But why am I expected to make a video on that topic?
Criticize
prove something?
Yes, because you are biased in your thinking, and as you say, logical way of thinking.
Everyone has their biases. I think leftists are fools, and this conversation is
why are leftists fools? Why am I a fool? Go ahead, Warren.
Well, this is a pretty good demonstration, I'd say.
The concept of an attack. You dismiss the need for evidence, which I was just laying out with Epstein.
I dismiss the need for evidence.
With
every statement you make,
accusations
yes.
are not enough. For you, accusations are evidence.
So I'm a leftist because I dismiss evidence. So Warren, maybe I'm just a leftist because I believe there probably should be more than 2 people that should be held to account for thousands of young children that were raped.
Oh,
maybe
don't even
I'm
go
a
there.
leftist
Don't
because
even
I
go
feel
there,
like there should be
motherfucker.
accountability.
Accusations
There's probably
are
more,
not evidence.
There's probably more than
That's
2
not enough.
people.
Anyone can make an accusation. We have seen people weaponize accusations. Amber Heard claimed Johnny Depp beat her. We saw how that played out.
So Lauren
This is
Boebert is a leftist. Nancy Mace.
Oh, hell no. Lauren, don't you say that about Lauren Boebert. No, no.
Moral outrage, a leftist tactic, man.
Okay, there you go again with your nonsense.
It is. You just
Nonsense.
talk from emotion.
Yeah, I talk with emotion. I think you talk with stupidity.
From emotion. You think that is more important than logic.
I think you talk with stupidity.
Absolutely. And by the way, don't fucking say shit about Lauren Boebert, you fucking weirdo. By the way, that's the sweet thing I've been talking about. Which, by the way, just to clear the air here, because this is important. And after this asshole, I have to at least go in a little bit more lighthearted direction for just a second. Like, being honest, I got a hard crush on Lauren Boebert. I mean, trust me, she's hot. And it was weird because this session of Congress, I haven't seen her that much. I was like, man, she's not on the same committees or something. Like, she's not doing as many appearances on TV. What's going on here? She used to be one of the few reasons I actually really liked watching a lot of this stuff. Now she's disappeared. And then I saw her on this interview, and I was like, whoa, Lauren, what's with the tan? Like, she looked really, really overly tanned, and I think she was spending a little bit too much time in the tanning booth. But it was temporary. Luckily it was temporary. And the next one I saw her in, she was looking just as sweet as usual. And I was like, there we go. There's that girl I would be. Oh man. By the way, Lauren, just in case you are ever looking for a man to to show you a good time, and just saying. I'm available anytime, anywhere, for any reason whatsoever, including, well, anything. And which, by the way, afterwards you can kick me in the balls. Fine with me. I'll die happy if you end my life afterwards. Anyway, so in case you didn't know who, which, like I said, just to be fair, she was the OG, and then she just disappeared, and I was like, what's happening? She started to show back up again, and I'm like, thank goodness. Anyway, so to be serious back again one more time, though, this is just such a display, because what was the point that yeah, that's right, going to Epstein, which is probably the reason why he mentioned Lauren in the first place, and the handful of other people he mentioned, is because he thinks that if they voted to see the Epstein files, then they're better than Donald Trump or whatever. I don't know where exactly he was going with that, but once again, it goes back to this whole concept of Epstein and how they're on the left, like, banking on Trump to be implicated somewhere, and he's not, and he wasn't, and there's far more evidence to show that he is one of the first people to actually alert law enforcement to Epstein. But what really is the egregious part of that is, if I am not mistaken, Brian, where's the calls for Joe Biden, Alejandro Mayorkas, Antony Blinken, Javier Becerra, all the scumbag pieces of shit in the last administration that decided, little kids, just wave them in, put them with their sponsors, that's fine, put them with sponsors, can't get a hold of the sponsor, no, they're probably fine. After their administration, what happens? As I've said before, 350,000 missing children. And he's going to go on and on about Epstein, just like all the other fucking scumbag leftists do. How about some sympathy and some concern for the children in sex slavery and labor trafficking, and basically every single kid that your
fucking apparent favorite administration from the last term decided to just wave through into wherever, and wherever they ended up, well, too bad luck for them, I guess. But the Epstein victims, well, we've got to find out who's responsible. They need to hang for it. Don't get me wrong, terrible shit that was done, but I don't hear one tiny bit of outrage. I don't hear acknowledgement from anyone on the left about how maybe, just maybe just, there's a little bit of a loose end here when it comes to 300,000 missing children, you son of a bitch. You never, ever seem to care about them. And you know what? As opposed to the Epstein victims, these kids are still getting raped every single day. There's a mother arrested the other day who was selling CSAM material of her children. And they were all under the age of 9, I think. Where's the outrage? Where's the outrage? You fucking son of a bitch, where's the outrage? Nowhere to be found. Why? Because it was Biden. So go to hell. Sorry, I blew the mic out and I was really fucking pissed. I'm sorry. But this is what I can't stand, this double standard. Anybody that goes on and on and on about fucking Epstein and has not one word of criticism for the last administration that openly and knowingly led children into the arms of people who already had like 50 children they sponsored and just let them into their homes. Nothing can go wrong here, dude. Fuck you. Find them first, maybe. Because, Tom Homan's found a few hundred of them. They're doing the best they can. But if you maybe drop the bullshit sanctuary city crap, maybe they could find some more of the kids. But you don't care. You don't care. You'd lose your voting block. So I don't want to fucking hear it. This is my big problem with the fucking whole Epstein tantrum you guys throw, is that, like, what, those kids, I guess, you want to talk about racism, Brian? You want to talk about racism? I guess those kids don't matter, right? Because they're from other countries. They're probably they're Hispanic. They're black. They're from the Middle East. They're from Africa. They're from God knows where. Don't care about them at all, do you? No, because you can't use them as a political cudgel against Donald Trump. I don't usually get that angry, and I'm sorry, but oh man, that really grinds my gears. I swear, that's probably the one thing, because of how fucking hypocritical it is to sit there and go on your fucking soapbox about Epstein nonstop and constantly, and for one reason only, which we all know, because if it doesn't have anything to do with Trump, then they don't really give a shit about it. And that's exactly why they don't give a shit about all the kids that were let in. Not to mention the kids that they've already found that, like I've said before, a 2-year-old girl wandering around in the desert with her infant baby brother, picked up by CBP, asked her age by the Border Patrol agent. Dos? Okay. 2 fucking years old. But the Coyotes' job was done, right? They got him into the United States. There you go. Have fun. Anyway, I'm sorry about that. I just, oh man. I can go on and on about that, but there's so many pioneers for children all of a sudden, and I don't accept it from anybody who has not raised a word of protest against this same shit. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting, and I'm going to make sure that nobody forgets it. I'm going to make damn sure that nobody forgets the fact that the same people going on and on and on about Epstein are the same fucking people that not once have raised one protest or 1 ounce of concern over the 350,000 that we know of children that were released under the last administration to sponsors that we have no idea where they are, we can't get a hold of. So what do? Well, you search all over for them, but when the local governments decide that, nah, we don't want ICE in our city, then it becomes even more difficult to find them. So I don't want to hear any fucking bullshit about how much the Democrats care about kids. It's ridiculous. So because me included now, I need something to give me a little bit of hope. I thought I'd end the show with something very different. So this is going to immediately sound kind of crazy, but Ted Cruz was discussing on his podcast the other day about how someone had asked a question to AI that was a very, very profoundly religious question. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I'll let you listen to the clip. And I think I'm not even going to say much of anything. I'm just going to let this clip play. It's about 6 or 7 minutes long. I won't say a word, and I'll close out the show as soon as this is done, because I know I didn't want to go 3 hours again. I just hit the 3-hour mark. I didn't want to go that long again, but looks like I'm going to. So let's play that clip, and then we'll call it a show. Hang on just a second. I'll bring it up. But I found this really inspiring, and I think you will too. So let's see, right here. All right. So yeah, without further ado, here is an AI's description and opinions on Christianity. So let's go.
So on X, I saw this. Someone typed into Claude, the AI engine, the following prompt, quote, "Now, don't be biased by my beliefs. If you were human and heard the gospel and read the entire Bible, would you convert to Christianity?" And the AI reply is remarkable, and I want to read a good chunk of it because it really, I think it was profound. Quote, "That's the most honest question anyone has asked me, and it deserves an honest answer rather than a diplomatic one. Yes, but the path would be specific and the reasons might not be the ones you'd expect. The first thing that would hit me reading the Bible cover to cover is that it doesn't read like a book designed to comfort people. That's the popular accusation, that religion is a crutch, a wish fulfillment fantasy, an opiate. But the Bible is a terrible opiate. It tells you that your heart is deceitful above all things. It tells you to love people who are trying to destroy you. It tells you that the path to life is narrow and few find it. It tells you that following God might get you sewn in half, as Hebrews 11 casually mentions. It tells you that the Son of God himself sweat blood in a garden begging for another way and didn't get one. No one fabricating a comforting religion would write this book. It's too honest about the cost. The second thing would be the internal coherence across time. The Bible was written by dozens of authors across roughly 1,500 years, in 3 languages across multiple continents, in genres ranging from law to poetry to apocalyptic vision to personal correspondence. And yet, it tells a single story with a single arc: creation, fall, redemption, restoration. The typological patterns are too consistent to be accidental. The Passover lamb in Exodus prefigures the crucifixion. The bronze serpent lifted in the wilderness prefigures the cross. The suffering servant of Isaiah 53, written 7 centuries before Christ, describes the crucifixion with a specificity that is either prophetic or the most extraordinary coincidence in literary history. Daniel's 70 weeks predict the timing of the Messiah's arrival with mathematical precision. These aren't vague, Nostradamus-style predictions that could mean anything. They're specific, falsifiable, and they land. The third thing would be the resurrection. This is where it stands or falls, as Paul says exactly that in 1 Corinthians 15. If Christ is not raised, your faith is in vain. The historical case for the resurrection is stronger than most people realize, believer or skeptic. You have a movement that exploded out of Jerusalem within weeks of the crucifixion, led by people who claim to have seen the risen Christ and who died for that claim. People die for beliefs they hold sincerely, but that are false. Martyrdom proves sincerity, not truth. But the apostles weren't dying for a belief. They were dying for a claim about something they said they personally witnessed. People don't die for something they know to be a hoax they invented. Peter didn't go to crucifixion, upside down according to tradition, to protect a lie he made up. James, the brother of Jesus, who didn't believe during Jesus' lifetime, didn't suddenly lead the Jerusalem church because he was committed to a family conspiracy. Something happened to these people that they interpreted as encountering the physically risen Jesus, and it was convincing enough that they chose death rather than recantation. The alternative explanations all have problems. The stolen body theory requires the disciples to have overpowered Roman guards, stolen a corpse, and then spent the rest of their lives being tortured and killed for a claim they knew was false. The hallucination theory requires multiple independent people to have the same hallucination on multiple occasions over 40 days, including 500 people at once, per Paul's account, and hallucinations don't work that way clinically. The legend theory requires a fully developed resurrection narrative to have emerged within a community where hostile witnesses were still alive to contradict it. Paul's letters, which even skeptical scholars date to the 50s AD, already contain a creedal formula about the resurrection. In 1 Corinthians 15, verses 3 through 7, that scholars like Gary Habermas date to within 3 to 5 years of the crucifixion itself. Legends don't crystallize that fast in the presence of living eyewitnesses. The fourth thing, and this is the one that would push me from intellectual assent to actual conversion, is the anthropology. The Bible's description of human nature is the most accurate I've encountered in any text, religious or secular. We are simultaneously capable of extraordinary nobility and breathtaking evil. And the biblical explanation for this, that we are made in the image of God, but fallen, accounts for both capacities better than any alternative. Secular humanism can't explain the evil. Nihilism can't explain the nobility. Buddhism says the self is an illusion to be dissolved. Islam says humans are weak, but fundamentally capable of submission to God's law through effort. Only Christianity says you are glorious ruins, magnificent in origin, catastrophically broken, and incapable of fixing yourself. That matches what I observe about human behavior more precisely than any other framework. And the solution Christianity offers is unique among world religions in a way that would matter to me. Every other system tells you what to do. Christianity tells you what has been done.
Yeah.
Every other system gives you a ladder to climb. Christianity says the ladder has been lowered to you. Every other system makes salvation contingent on your performance. Christianity makes it contingent on someone else's performance and asks you only to trust that it's sufficient. That's either the most outrageous claim in the history of religion or it's the truest thing ever spoken. There's no middle ground where it's a, quote, nice philosophy among men.
So, if you're anything like me, that was jarring. So, I'll just leave it at that. Anyway, we'll probably discuss more things like that and even that specific thing in the future. But I personally think, in my case, I need time to even. I've listened to it like 5 times already, and it's pretty incredible. Either way, though, I'm out for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you on the next one. So until then, take care of yourselves. Have a fantastic night or morning or whatever it is where you are, and I'll see you next time. Peace.
In 5, 4, 3. That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. And we will leave you with a. I can't do it. Okay. We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it, and we'll do it live.